97.1 FM Talk.
Well, I believe we have a few things to talk about on this Monday afternoon. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. We're going to get you through the next 3 hours. We do have weather that obviously has been moving through the area this morning. I had a couple of times where the sirens went off in the Fenton area. We had Steve Templeton from Channel 4 was on saying not too long ago, well, we have something that's going on like right at Washington and Tucker. So that seemed relatively close to where we are. But it's weird because storms kind of moved through, and a lot of them moved to the north earlier this afternoon. I follow some people, even in Milwaukee, Fred, on Twitter, and they were getting hammered with storms. So we still have this this window this afternoon. My school district, that my daughter's in Rockwood, and I think other schools did this too, they basically called up classes early. So they had a 2-hour early dismissal. I guess better safe than sorry. Would it surprise me if none of this really happens this afternoon? Yes, it would not, but it also might not result in the devastation that we think. But look, we got to take this stuff seriously. We learned that last May. I mentioned this with Annie before the top of the hour. If you've seen that Springfield documentary, you will obey the sirens and you will get to a safe place. So we have that all in the mix with this crazy weekend. I mean, and a crazy start to the week. And here we go again. And Fred, I'm at a house concert on Saturday night for a guy, really, really good singer-songwriter. His name is Darden Smith. He's from Texas, and he was at my friends, the Lynches in Chesterfield. And I didn't really even want to sit in the front row because there's like seating in the living room. It's really cool atmosphere. But everyone, everyone is. They don't want to take the front row. So I get in there. I'm like literally right in front of him, and he plays piano. And the piano is like I could touch the piano, right? So I get your message first, and it says White House. It says WHCD shooting. Turn on the TV. To me, that didn't translate right away because I'm just so you know, I'm not trying to look at my phone because I don't want to be rude in front of the singer-songwriter and the other people. So I kind of had it on a very dim setting, just in case. And I saw that. I'm like, wait a second. What is he talking about? Oh, and then I think I said to you, ugh, how bad, right? And at that point, we really didn't know. So my news instincts, immediately, I wait for the song to end, and I get up and I talk to my friend John. I said, you following the news? And he's recording the show. It's his deal. It's his concert. It's in his home. And I said, they tried to kill Trump again, Secret Service hit in the chest. And then I sat on a couch and I waited for the show to end, and then I got out of there because I wanted to see what was happening. So I'm driving back. I'm listening to both Fox and CNN. And Jennings was there. He was at the event. So they, at this time, had him on the CNN set in Washington. And it was very bizarre just to see all the people covering it, Fred, because they all had their tuxedos on and their dresses on and things
and
like that.
And lots of makeup.
Well, Jackie Heinrich, I mean, I will say that she maybe single-handedly saved the Fox coverage because they have some weekenders that are doing this who I'm sure can read from a teleprompter, but were very ill-prepared to cover breaking news of this nature. And, all the people that cover breaking news of this nature were all in that room. We're going to talk to Brian a little bit later. Kilmeade was there, and he says that room, outside of anything else, was like a fire hazard because there were so many people. He said he had to ask 6 people to just get up and move their chairs just so he could get to his table.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so I don't know what that tells you, but now we know a little bit more about this shooter. He had checked in a day before, but he had booked his travel a month before. Actually, I think he booked the hotel room as well. And now there's questions because we think he went from train to Chicago, train to D.C., kind of find out the lay of the land. When I first saw the video, Fred, the speed at which he was traveling through that security checkpoint. We've all been through security checkpoints. I mean, just think about going to a Cardinals game. You can run through one of those things and end up on the second concourse before anyone even touches you, right? By the way, not suggesting you do that, but you're at a point in the evening when you think about this where everyone's in the room, right? At this point, everyone's in the room, and except for Wolf Blitzer, who's peeing, I think. And then this guy just comes barreling through. There's no way to stop him. They don't even see him coming. And then the weapons get drawn, etc. Now, they don't know. We got some good new audio that came in here from Todd Blanche, who's the acting attorney general. They have some charges that they have issued. Only 3 charges. And one of the things I heard, he may address this, Fred, is that they're not exactly sure if the Secret Service agent who took the bullet to the vest, if that was friendly fire or if it was from the suspect. The other thing that was weird for me is when they keep talking about the guns that he had a semi-automatic .38 caliber pistol. He had knives. He had other things that they're not really saying, but he had a 12-gauge shotgun, which if you see the video of him running through, those are big weapons, right? It's not like you can, unless it was sawed off, you can hide that. So I'm a little confused by the whole deal with the shotgun, just because visually I don't really know where that came into play. But here is the latest. This is from... this is just from a short time ago, right? Todd Blanche kind of held a news conference with a few people. By the way, Carolyn held a briefing today. We thought that was going to be her last on Friday, she announced, because she's going off on pregnancy leave. But this was too important today to cover all these things. The president handled himself extremely well. Was very, very deferential, complimentary toward the media. I mean, he went out there with his tuxedo on, and everyone, it was weird seeing people with the bow ties. Yeah. The bow ties looked great, though, but he was complimentary. And he said, the one thing that really resonated with me, and I heard a couple of people say it, Fred, in the aftermath, and, this is maybe what's even more sad about what happened here is, in a rare moment in Washington, D.C., you had a bunch of people in a room, many of whom do not like President Trump and his behavior, certainly, and they don't like Republicans, and they fight against Republicans, and then you had Republicans in that room, and most members of the cabinet, and everyone was sort of unified in a moment that really is about freedom of speech and freedom of the press. And then, unfortunately, this happens. All right, so here's the acting attorney general a short time ago.
I just wanted to ask what law enforcement has learned about why he was targeting President Trump. Do you guys believe he was upset about a certain policy or decision by the president?
The complaint lays out what I think is described as a manifesto, which is something that he allegedly sent to many folks, his family. That's what we have so far as his motivation. As the U.S. Attorney said a few minutes ago, what is clear from the complaint and from what we have so far is he was targeting President Trump. He described that in his manifesto. He was targeting administration officials. He described that. But as far as us understanding additional motivation, that's for the FBI and law enforcement.
By the way, smart dude, went to Caltech, apparently really, really smart. So what radicalized him? We've heard, from some people who I think had some interaction with him in California, didn't seem to have any incidents that, could point towards something like this.
Beyond the evidence in what the judge described as the manifesto, what other evidence can you point to that tells us that the president was the primary target of the suspect?
So we're a day and a half into the investigation. As we talked about earlier, we were able to get multiple devices from various locations, the hotel room and also his where he lived in California. We have started that process. There's nothing more that would be appropriate to share at this time until we have thoroughly gone through it, which we're doing, and we'll share that information as appropriate in the future.
So the investigation continues. Still a lot of questions about what happened, and a lot of questions about the security, because I'm hearing more and more that this is a situation in a hotel where people have weddings and there are other people that are staying there. And now that you hear that the guy, pretty much saw the lay of the land, some of the things that he wrote indicated he saw lacks security. The president made the point, Fred, as you know, on Saturday night, saying this is why we need the ballroom, because it's going to be more of a fortress. I think it's amazing that he was like telling them we need to go on. Like when all this happened at first, he's like, no, we need to continue this. They're like, no, because one of the things they didn't know was someone else in the room, right? Could the FBI and the Secret Service, they had to know that it was safe, and they couldn't guarantee that. So they did the right thing. And, you just see the panic on people's faces as they're leaving that. By the way, like poor Erica Kirk and a couple others, they're grabbing J.D. Vance and people from the stage. And a couple of people were not on the A-list, I guess, and they get stuffed under the table. And then I saw this horrifying, so sad video of her leaving with the Secret Service, just saying, I just want to go home. I mean, the amount of trauma that everyone experienced that night had to be off the charts. The amount of trauma that Erica Kirk had undergone has to be a new level, right? But then there's Melania and Jimmy Kimmel. This is disgusting, by the way. I mean, the dude should be fired for this. And I didn't know why Melania was out there on social media today talking about this, but this is what she said. And I'll tell you the background because I had to do this in reverse order. I didn't realize what she was talking about. So the First Lady goes out there on X and says, Kimmel's hateful and violent rhetoric is intended to divide our country. His monologue about my family isn't comedy. His words are corrosive and deepens the political sickness within America. People like Kimmel shouldn't have the opportunity to enter our homes each evening to spread hate. A coward, Kimmel hides behind ABC because he knows the network will keep running cover to protect him. Enough is enough. It's time for ABC to take a stand. How many times will ABC's leadership enable Kimmel his atrocious behavior at the expense of our community? So here is what she's referring to. And Fred, had you heard this yet before today?
Not before today.
Okay, so I think this was Thursday night, if I'm not mistaken.
First Lady Melania is here. Look at Melania, so beautiful. Mrs. Trump, you have a glow like an expectant widow.
I mean, are you kidding me? And they want to say that the rhetoric, I mean, look, this isn't, Annie had this poll question about is the rhetoric, the same on both sides. It is not. It is not. And when you have, here, let me offer my former hero, Bruce Springsteen, as an example, who goes out every night on his tour and does this chest thumping about how democracy is being ruined. This is a tyrant. We are living in a, authoritarian time and all this stuff. But then on Sunday night, last night, he goes out there and offers prayers and, condolences for those people who, not condolences, but prayers and hopes and tries to say something that's unifying. No. You're not going to get away with that after going out there. Like, I'd see what Jimmy Kimmel has to say. Will he apologize for that in any way, shape, or form? That's a horrifying joke. It really is. Outside of the fact that there was another assassination attempt, but these are multiple attempts that keep happening, and they probably won't stop. President Trump's kind of letting it roll off his back. He's like, well, it's part of the gig. But that kind of stuff, I don't know if he'll be asked to apologize. I think it's more egregious than what he did when he got pulled off the air,
I think
to be honest with you. All right, we'll take a break. We got Josh Hammer coming up, and then we got Kilmeade, Dave Murray with the latest on the weather. Things are, believe it or not, sunny in downtown St. Louis right now.
Traffic from the 97.1 FM Talk Traffic Center.
Things considered. We've got 170 southbound before Page. Watch on the right shoulder. You've got a stall working. Another stalled vehicle. It's in the right lane. 44 westbound just past Arsenal, so watch for it. 70 westbound way out west, getting into Wright City. Really jammed up because there's a lane closed due to flooding in that particular area. And eastbound on 270 over east, approaching 159, we've got a crash working in the lane. I'm Tron Erickson at 316 on 97.1 FM Talk.
It's time for a $98 AC tune-up.
Honey, I found the one.
Oh, I thought I was the one.
Oh, you are, but this one's certified, background check, shows up on time, and can install all the ceiling fans.
Heating, cooling, electrical, and plumbing. Trusted pros who do it right.
All right, we want to give you the best opportunity to not lose your power on a day like this. Unfortunately, this weather is a great example of what happens and why you need a free estimate on a Generac home standby, automatic standby generator from Generator Supercenter. We're almost, just about 2 weeks, less than 2 weeks away from the tornado from last year. Now we have severe weather that's been moving in all day. We have some reports of tornadoes even now. We're going to keep you kind of up to date and posted on that. But this is a perfect example of calling Generator Supercenter saying, look, I heard about this on the radio. Sounds like a smart thing to do. I hear the estimate is free and you have financing available with low monthly payments. So this puts you into an area where you're going to have peace of mind. If you're out of town and weather like this is rolling through, you don't have to worry about your food spoiling and things like that. We know outside of storms, the power grid has failed. It's been built, decades and decades ago. We're talking about the 40s and the 50s. It cannot handle the burdens of population growth. We know what's happening with data centers. Get yourself a free estimate on a Generac home standby generator from Generator Supercenter of St. Louis, the nation's #1 Generac generator dealer. Call 314-499-2020, GeneratorSupercenter of St. Louis.com.
I'm Dr. Nick Barnes at Health From Within Family Chiropractic in Rock Hill. At Health From Within, our mission is to transform the way you manage your health by bringing you the truth about health and healing. We use proven techniques to remove interference in the nervous system and maximize health naturally, without drugs or surgery. Connect with me at healthfromwithinstl.com And join me for Maximize Living on this station every Sunday at 8 a.m. or download the Maximize Living podcast, Health from Within, STL.com.
Beat the spring cleaning rush and zero res. Mark Cox here. Buy one room of carpet, get one clean for free, unlimited rooms, and whole system duct cleaning for just $5.99. Visit ZeroResSTL.com.
License number GL250000615.
We've seen all kinds of clogs, so remember the rule. Only flush 3 things. Number 1, number 2, and toilet paper.
What about my dinosaurs?
No.
My monster truck?
Nope.
What about...
If it's not the big 3, don't flush it.
But if someone does flush a dinosaur...
Call Grasser. We clear the clog and get things moving again.
Green is always Grasser at GrasserHomeservices.com.
Hey, it's Mark Reardon. If you're nearing retirement or already retired, call my friends Thomas Helbig and Bob Kershaw with the Retirement Advisory Group. They'll show you how linking to the market is much safer than owning the market for your retirement savings. They're the official financial advisors of my show. Go to retirementkey.com.
This is Congressman Bob Onder. Americans demanded border security, and House Republicans delivered. According to the Department of Homeland Security, for 10 consecutive months, U.S. Customs and Border Protection has reported 0 illegal aliens released at the border. I'm proud to have worked with the Trump administration to secure our southern border and uphold our immigration laws, and will keep fighting to advance strong policies that protect Missourians and keep America safe.
Paid for by official funds authorized by the House of Representatives.
Mark Reardon, Sue Thomas. This is the Mark Reardon Show.
So we do have a tornado warning that remains in effect for northwestern St. Charles County this afternoon. We're talking about O'Fallon, St. Paul, Josephsville, Lake St. Louis, Wentzville, Darden Prairie, Cottleville. That one might have expired by now. So a lot of these, there was one that would affect St. Peter's and St. Charles. But look, we've had severe weather. We have a very toxic atmosphere right now, and we may actually be in an alert right now. What happens in these situations is that I get taken off the microphone because the emergency alert system sort of kicks in, and at a certain point, I'm not even sure if that happens. I'm going to try to welcome my guest, Josh Hammer, into the fold here this afternoon. Josh, how are you? I hope you're well.
Mark, I'm doing just fine, but after what I just heard there, I hope that you guys stay safe out there.
I know. We got, we had this terrible tornado a year ago that really hit parts of the city hard, and so everyone's sort of nerves are frayed, and we've just had this atmospheric condition where all day long we've got, bubbling up of cold fronts meeting all this humidity. So we may have to cut out sooner rather than later. But let me just ask you for your reaction to what happened over the weekend. I mean, I could not believe here we are again in another assassination attempt. And, President Trump addressed this a little bit from a unique perspective on Saturday night when he goes, look, they only go after the ones that are making a difference. And he mentioned Lincoln and Kennedy, not trying to maybe compare himself to it, but saying, look, when you're trying to fight for things that people don't agree with, these things happen. Now, that might be a little bit of a simplification because this is beyond acceptable. And even some of the reactions to this assassination attempt and shooting are just ridiculous right now, Josh, as you know.
Well, Barack Obama, Mark, did the whole we don't know the true motive thing, which is just beyond inexplicable because we literally have a manifesto. And that has been the reaction of far too many in the elite corners of the left and the Democratic Party establishment. But I'm really happy that you mentioned Lincoln because Lincoln's kind of my guy. I'm born on Lincoln's birthday. He's my favorite figure in American history. One of Lincoln's first and most powerful speeches he ever gave was the Lyceum address that he gave at the age of 28, just shy of his 29th birthday. This is in Illinois in 1838, I believe the year was. And he famously said that America, as mighty as it is and as many threats abroad as we have, would never actually be destroyed from without, from abroad. But if America is to ever be destroyed, Lincoln warned, it would happen from within. And I've been saying for years, Mark, as I've watched the situation deteriorate ever further when it comes to the rise of left-wing political violence, perhaps best encapsulated by the Butler, Pennsylvania near tragedy. Well, it was a tragedy, actually, because Corey Cornpretori, right, the Trump supporter, was killed. The Charlie Kirk assassination. We get ever and ever closer to the brink because the day that a free people, or at least a plurality or a large portion of a free people, the day that people decides that words and the pen and the keyboard and the ballot box are insufficient, and that instead we must pick up knives and guns and bazookas and God knows what else. That is the day the Republican self-governance dies. And I'm not saying that that we are there today on April 27, 2026. What I am saying is that I think it's only getting worse when it comes to the left. And I just categorically reject the notion that this is an all sides problem.
So do I. It's not even close. It's not even marginally close. It's ridiculous for anyone to make that argument based on the rhetoric that we've heard from everyone from late night comedians to members of the United States Senate and House on down.
Oh, 1,000%. And the polling on this is overwhelming. I've been looking at a lot of data over the past day or so on this. I saw one poll from one of my favorite organizations, this group based in New Jersey called the Network Contagion Research Institute. They do excellent social and political work. They did one poll that showed that 56% of self-identified left-wing respondents would justify the assassination of Donald Trump. Another poll that I saw showed that 25% of self-described very liberal respondents in a separate poll believe that political violence is sometimes appropriate. That's over 8 times as many as the 3% of the so-called very conservative crowd who would do it. And to be clear, I obviously condemn that in the strongest terms possible. I saw a different poll last summer, actually, memory serves, out of Harvard University, maybe our single most famous university, showed roughly 1/3, between 30 and 35% of Harvard students believe that political violence can sometimes be justified. I mean, this is a real problem. And it's also, this is maybe one of the most tragic parts of it, it's actually intellectually consistent. How many years have we heard the left say that words are violence, that speech is violence? They've been saying this refrain for years.
Yeah.
And if you actually believe that, if you actually think that, you're going to respond to speech with violence. And tragically, that's where we're at.
Did you see this stuff? This is, kind of bubbling a little bit underneath the surface. And I lived in Wisconsin for almost 10 years, but about this guy who's running for office up there and has promised free beer for when Trump dies. Are you dialed into that story?
That.
So this is disgusting. And like Fox News reaches out to this guy to say, hey, do you have any statement about the Minocqua Brewing Company Facebook post? Well, this is what it said. Well, we almost got a, quote, free beer day. Either a brother or sister in the resistance needs to work on their marksmanship or faked another assassination to get positive news cycle. We'll never know. Regardless, we stand at the ready to pour free beer the day it happens. So they write to this guy who owns the brewery and he says it's wonderful that Fox News, the entity that's most responsible for political violence in this country, is offering to help promote our upcoming free beer day in which we promise to hand out free beer all day when he dies. I don't want to read the whole thing because it's given this guy way too much attention, but he's not backing down from them. And if you look, Josh, you know this, if there was some bar out there putting a price on the head of Joe Biden or Barack Obama or Kamala Harris, that would be CNN lead story. Be their freaking lead story.
Oh, 1,000%. I mean, it's not even close. It's absolutely not even close. I mean, just a few days prior to this clip of Jimmy Kimmel is really making the rounds of Jimmy Kimmel, quote unquote, joking about how Melania Trump.
I played it. I just played it. It's outrageous. I think it's worse than what he got suspended for the first time.
Oh, I actually think it's considerably worse.
Yes.
If I'm being very candid with you, I think Jimmy Kimmel is horrible, but I was actually a little surprised that he was suspended based at what he said at the time there. But I think this is actually considerably worse than what he said back then. This is such a problem, Mark. And the way that I'm able to kind of think it through is we know the left believes, per Saul Alinsky, that the ends justify the means. And we also know, per the infamous quote that I believe was technically said from Walter Durante, the New York Times Moscow chief. He said this. He was a great admirer of Joseph Stalin around the time that Stalin was genociding millions and millions of Ukrainians with a foe-induced famine. Durante famously said that you can't make an omelet without breaking eggs. So this is the mentality of the left, is they find themselves constantly justifying violence in the name of so-called progress. And it's disgusting. It's just absolutely positively disgusting. And what remains of the old liberal guard, the old mid-20th century ACLU, the old free speech warriors, the free speech movement out of Cal Berkeley from the hippie days in 60s, 70s, et cetera, there, it's dead. It is dead, or at least it's now confined to the one body of John Fetterman, who's kind of like the single last guy, the single last guy standing.
Right.
But that breed of liberal is just a total dead species. And what you have now is frankly gross. And the only silver lining that I have, Mark, is that when this brand of left-winger runs before the American people, it does not tend to fare very well. Kamala Harris ran as something very close to that, and of course, she lost all 7 swing states there. So, Republicans have a lot of their own issues, both substantively and when it comes to their own whack jobs. You and I have discussed them, certainly in the past. But if there's one silver line to be had for Republicans in this midterm election year, is that the problems on the left are considerably worse, and I think most Americans recognize this.
One of the things that's tough now, and the news cycle is the news cycle, so things take over. This is a huge story. There's no doubt about that. But then it kind of removes you a little bit from what's going on in the Middle East right now and what the progress is there. By the way, the left says the whole thing was staged because of that. They think it's a hoax. But you do now have a little bit of a difficulty, dialing in and trying to find out exactly what's happening with Iran. And I think the ceasefire has been extended again, so there's a bit of a lull. But I don't even remember hearing anything about talks from the weekend, because did those talks even really take place?
Oh, well, it's totally been drowned out by all the other news. But no, what happened over the weekend was Donald Trump essentially told Steve Witkoff and Jared Kushner, do not go to Pakistan, do not indulge in these so-called negotiations. The problem is that Iran does not speak with one voice. There really is no coherent Iranian regime to speak of at this time. And the people that they were sending to sit down on purported behalf of the regime, namely the former parliament speaker, a guy by the name of Galibaf, who apparently is now out of a job, they were sending him. They were sending the foreign minister, who's essentially, the Secretary of State equivalent, a guy by the name of Araghchi. They were essentially trying to speak on behalf of Iran and putting everything up to and including the crown jewel, the nuclear program, on the table. The issue is that they themselves have been totally crowded out on the Iranian domestic front by the true radicals, by the IRGC, the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, essentially the extraterritorial terrorist wing of the country. So long story short, the people that we can best tell who are actually running Iran to this day, because the new mini Ayatollah, Mushaba Khamenei, continues to not make public appearances. He apparently is severely wounded from the blast that killed his father. He's partially amputated, still recovering, severe lacerations, burns, etc. It's basically the IRGC and namely their new chief, this guy by the name of Vahidi. This guy Vahidi seems to be essentially calling the shots. And this is the most radical faction imaginable.
Oh, great.
Of what is already arguably the world's most fanatical radical regime. So for all those reasons, Mark, I think that's why Donald Trump said, this is literally just not worth their time anymore.
All right, Josh Hammer, always great to have you on. Of course, your show airs every Saturday here, 1 p.m., 97.1 FM Talk. We'd love to have you on. Thank you, Josh. I appreciate it.
You bet.
All right, take care.
Traffic from the 97.1 FM Talk Traffic Center.
So things relatively light out there. We've got a couple problems though on 64 westbound. This is past Clayton, where you're going to find a right lane down. We've got a stalled vehicle there, but with the light volume, you're seeing things moving along fine. Where it's not moving along fine is 70 westbound, just before Wright City. We've got a left lane taken down because of standing water in the area and a long backup through that area. But the rest of the roadways, pretty decent shape. I'm Trent Erickson at 331 on 97.1 FM Talk.
And just a reminder on the weather, because we do have some severe weather. We have tornado warnings that are still in effect for parts of northwestern St. Charles County. A lot of this has moved to the north. That does not mean that we're not going to have pop-ups here in west or east or south, especially because it's sunny right now, and that may be the lull in the action. At least downtown is sunny, but the tornado was we don't have confirmation, but in theory, with the warning that came out earlier, O'Fallon, St. Paul, Lake St. Louis, Wentzville, areas like that, they're in effect. We have another one for southeastern Calhoun, southeastern Jersey, northwestern Madison counties in southwestern Illinois, and the one in northeastern St. Charles and north central St. Louis counties until about 3 minutes ago. So that one kind of expired 3 minutes ago. Oh, it goes till 4? Okay, sorry. Goes till 4. I see. At 3:29, a severe thunderstorm capable of producing a tornado was located about 6 miles northeast of St. Charles, moving east at 45 miles an hour. Look, there's hail, there's high winds. It's dangerous. If the sirens go off, get yourself to a very, very safe position. Let me talk about my friend Susan L. Ward, family practice attorney here in St. Louis, who does great work, and she can help you in a very, very tough situation. Divorce is a tough, tough situation. Even in the best situations, you're going to have things that you're not going to, want to go through, and you're probably going to think, oh, okay, the other side's going to play cool because I want to play cool. That doesn't happen. You're going to get a lawyer from the other side, and the lawyer from the other side is going to say, this is what we do. So you have to be prepared for that particular situation. Susan's going to make sure you're prepared. If you go to stlfamilylaw.com, you can read about the firm, what they do, what they've done, what they can do for you, and how Susan is rated AV preeminent by Martindale Hubbell. That's the highest peer rating that an attorney can receive, and it's showing that a lawyer has reached the height of professional excellence. There's colleagues of hers, other attorneys that vote on that. So check them out if you need her help. It's a tough situation. You don't want to put off the contact, though. 314-783-9400. The website, stlfamilylaw.com. The focus on family law, the emphasis on you.
If you're considering an annuity as part of your retirement plan, we need to talk. Hi, I'm Bob Stockdale, Senior Vice President Investments with the ClearPath Wealth Management Group at Stifel and host of On the Money, Saturday mornings at 11 on 97.1 FM Talk. Annuities can be a useful tool for some retirement investors, but not all annuities are created equal. Every week, we meet clients who own complex annuities that don't suit their needs and, in some cases, actively undermine their retirement plan. Before you purchase an annuity, get a second opinion from the ClearPath Wealth Management Group at Stifel. Requesting a consultation is free of charge. To request a free consultation, contact us at clearpathinvesting.com. That's clearpathinvesting.com, or call us at 636-695-2650. That's clearpathinvesting.com or 636-695-2650. Stifel Nicholas and Company Incorporated, member NYSE and SIPC.
It's time for a $98 AC tune-up.
Built on backbone, not buzzwords. 97.1 FM Talk. St. Louis Conservative.
Oh, we got Kilmeade hopping online. He was there the other night, by the way, so we're going to get some firsthand reaction from Brian in a couple of minutes. I wanted to get Scott Jennings on because he's the first person I heard when I pulled out of this concert I was at. I turned on both Fox and CNN. Fox coverage didn't seem to be as strong at that point, but then I asked Jennings, Fred asked Jennings if he can come on today. He had a really lame excuse. He's meeting with the king and the queen we're not talking about Melania and Donald Trump. We're talking about King Charles. So I think Scott's going to join us tomorrow afternoon. Just on the weather front right now, we got a bunch of tornado warnings that are in effect. A lot of this has moved northwest. But the National Weather Service says a severe thunderstorm, this was at 3:29, capable of producing a tornado, located over Orchard Farms, 6 miles northeast of St. Charles, moving east at 45 miles an hour. Now, those of us in different parts of St. Louis are still under some threats for different cells and different systems that may come through. So we're going to keep you posted on all of that. But I mentioned Brian was at the event the other night. It had to really kind of scare the hell out of him. I'm guessing just some reflections this afternoon. How are you holding up?
Oh, good. Just, updating people, trying to stay on top of the investigations, the examination, and see where we go from here. For the longest time, Iran was the biggest story, but on Saturday night, that became the biggest story.
So tell me where you were in how this all went down from your perspective.
I was on the vice president's side of the dais, so I'm not on the dais, but we were the tables right in front. Fox had a whole bunch of tables sitting next to Tulsi Gabbard, two seats away from Erica Kirk. Across from me was Harris Faulkner, and all of a sudden we heard shots. I smelled the gunpowder. I actually felt like I smelled the gunpowder before I heard it.
Wow!
And now we're trying to figure out who was shooting who. But we had an eyewitness say that 7 shots at least came off his gun, and then we find out that the Secret Service also shot. Bottom line is, I smelled the gunpowder right away. But the thing that struck me is seeing the guys running full speed, and I'm thinking to myself, are they chasing somebody?
Right.
Because I have no idea who's Secret Service. To get in there, if you're looking to blend in, you're wearing a tie. You're wearing a tux. So if you're looking to pull something off, so just because you're wearing a tux doesn't mean you're not the guy. But it became clear that they were looking to get the principals out. So 10 of the most powerful people in the cabinet were there, 5 in succession of power, including the Speaker of the House.
Yeah.
So they were all sitting there, tables away from each other. Mark Wayne Mullen directly in front of me. So they had to quickly get them out. RFK was literally ripped out of his seat, and his wife was picked up and carried. So then Erica, she was actually under the table, rattled to the core, and they pulled her out. And then it became clear that they're not going to resume. We went out back to the Fox room, which was where the pre-party was, and then they come blitzing in the room, and they say, "What are you guys doing here?" And they say, "You got to get out. We believe there's somebody hiding."
Oh.
So then I thought, okay, we go out the door. They go, "No, you got to go through the kitchen." So then we went through the kitchen, and they let us halfway, and they go, just keep going straight ahead.
Wow.
Next thing you know, we were out in the street. We were able to pull up a couple SUVs, and we got out of there. And at first I thought, well, am I leaving the scene of all the action? But all the action had stopped. It was a one-man operation, and they got him. And you know exactly what he thinks because he put it into a screed, in his own warped but educated mind. I mean, the guy's got a master's degree. The guy's an engineer.
Yeah,
right.
But
he was the days of career criminals just committing another crime just bigger and bigger. Yeah, that's an issue, but that's a separate issue. These assassins feel compelled to do it for a greater reason, and in their twisted mind, I get the sense that, judging by what they read and what I'm seeing from Charlie Kirk's assassin to Luigi Mangione, the assassin of Roberts, the CEO of the healthcare company, they have no regrets. They think they're doing the Lord's work.
So from your perspective, just not knowing the layout, and you referenced this guy was sprinting, so he goes by that checkpoint. How close then was he to getting into that room?
That's a great question, but I think he was about 60 feet from getting into that room.
Still a ways away. Yeah.
Yeah, but I'd say if he got in, it would have been a bloodbath.
Well, right.
Because if people are shooting back, I mean, I've never seen a room so packed. I've been to 10 of these, about maybe more, but it's been a while. And I said to myself, oh my God, this is so packed. I mean, what a fire hazard. Literally, if you don't walk up the middle, and when you have to walk in, you got to get to my table, I had to ask 6 people to stand up because
oh my,
I couldn't walk through. I mean, literally, you cannot walk through. So then you have this going on. People are diving, diving under their tables. I taped a lot of it. I could give you the tape. You can post it if you want, because I wanted to see what's going on. I looked at the dais, and it was empty almost immediately. So, and evidently, J.D. Vance was the one who was out earlier. They said J.D. Vance was on the street, and the president was still on the dais.
Well, the president apparently, when they whisked him off, he still wanted to see if this thing could. We got severe weather here, Brian, so I'm getting my phone going off.
Yeah,
he still wanted to go on potentially with the event, right? That's what we heard.
Well, that's why I was hesitant to leave, because the Trump official came up to me and said, "Where are you going? We're doing this. We're not going to not do this." I said, "Really?" And then our service, our security goes, "There is no way they're going back on that stage." And I said, "Okay." And I'm with Brett Baer and the president of the company and the president of news, and I go, I'm in pretty good company. I'm pretty sure this is the decision I should make to leave. So we did.
Well, it was weird and fascinating and a little surreal to see the coverage on all the networks in the aftermath because, and Jackie, give her credit, she looks, amazing with the dress on and the eye makeup, but she's just thrown into the middle of this reporting. I saw Caitlin Collins threw a sport coat over her dress on CNN, but everyone kind of, and the president said this, and this was interesting. This really struck with me, Brian, and maybe you too, but in the aftermath of all this, he was, I think the president handled this very, very well in the aftermath. He's been praising the Secret Service and the the security, but he also said, there was some moments in that room where everyone was kind of together, even the people that may hated each other, and he was giving credit to Weijia Zhang, who put this event together. So in the the minutes before all this happened, you guys were in the middle of something that's kind of not happening anymore in this country, right?
Yeah, I mean, no doubt about it. You even hear the questions. The questions were with a human sense. What's it like? Third time it's happened. What were you feeling? What was it like with your first lady next to you? Instead of, why does this happen? Secret Service should be fired. Is this a setup? Is this a ruse? I mean, that's the rumor online. As usual, the conspiracy theorists go to town, saying this whole thing was set up because his poll ratings are down. Please tell me how shooting a Secret Service agent in the chest gets his poll ratings up. I mean, like anyone would orchestrate this. But instead, the questions were very human. What about you? How are you doing? What about you guys? How are you doing? Because, look, even though the target was the administration, if this guy got in with that gun, with those knives, with that rifle, there would have been countless dead and wounded.
Yeah, it's got to scare the hell out of you, for sure. So the president says he wants to do this again within the next 30 days. You've been to a fair amount of these events, not only White House Correspondents' Dinner. One of the things that I've heard from folks, Brian, I don't know if this is true or not, that this is an event, because it's at this hotel, that this does not have the layers of security, perhaps, that some other events have with those many key members of the administration. Do you have a sense of that?
Well, there's 49 meeting rooms, 1,041 rooms. So you don't have, 1,041 people. I didn't stay in the hotel. They don't push you to stay in the hotel. So we have no idea these people's backgrounds. Now, if you think about it, no one's pushed me back on this. He hopped on a train to Chicago, and from Chicago he went to D.C. I don't go through metal detectors, magnetometers. So that's probably why he takes the train. And number two is he checks in. No one checks my bag when I check in. I mean, look at
No,
Las
of course
Vegas.
not. Right.
That guy checked in with countless rifles. So there's two places you don't check in. So now he's already in the building. So now he has a reason to be there. And as the Wall Street Journal, they interviewed one of the FBI executives, and he said, they trained and had a formation to take an army, but they were beaten by a guy with a room key.
Unbelievable. By the way, you mentioned Erica Kirk. I saw the video of her just kind of exiting the room with an agent, and maybe a couple of them just crying and saying, I just want to go home. I can't even imagine. Not that this was not traumatic for other people, including you in the room, but just thinking of what she went through, and she had to flash back to that moment with her husband. It was just so heartbreaking to see that.
Yeah, I mean, I saw the whole thing, and she was underneath the table. And remember, she canceled her appearance with J.D. Vance last week because of another death threat. I mean, why she should have anything but praise and protection is insane. But some of these crazy podcasters are blaming her for being complicit in her husband's death. It's absolutely insanity. I mean, really off the grid crazy.
It is. And, going back to what you said about the blame, the first thing my wife and I said when all this was going down is, they're probably out there on the X with this was a hoax. This was a hoax to, make sure that we're not talking about Iran or the Epstein files or whatever the deal is. So you're never going to get people like that to say sane things. Brian, I hope all is well. I'm glad you're safe. Good Lord, of all things. Yeah. So that had to be a hell of an experience. But maybe we'll catch up again later this week when things settle down. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. For more up-close and personal contact, don't forget the factory in November.
Oh, yeah. The show is on for the 21st of November. Tickets are on sale now. We can't wait to have you back here in the fall. Certainly, there's going to be plenty to talk about. All right, Brian, thank you so much.
Go get it, Mark.
That's Brian Kilmeade. You hear him every morning here on 97.1 FM Talk. We got weather moving through the area right now. Some tornado warnings that are still in effect. Much of the, the cells and the activity right now are to the northwest of St. Louis, of downtown. I'm looking at some radar. I'm not allowed to interpret the radar. I'm not a meteorologist, but I'm looking at some radar pics right now, which are up in the Grafton area, Alton, where it looks like things are pretty tricky right now with some intense winds and thunderstorms. But just keep in mind that we have volatile weather that's going to move through the area, apparently between 4 and 6 for the more central part of the listening area in West County in particular. That's still supposed to, be a situation that really flares up this afternoon. So we're going to keep an eye on that and keep you posted.
Traffic from the 97.1 FM Talk Traffic Center.
Quite a ways out west, but we are really jammed getting into on 70 westbound, getting into Wright City because the left lane is closed. There's flooding in the area, and it is really jammed into that area and for a long distance there, too. The eastbound side looks okay. It's really just your westbound side, and the rest of the roadways closer to St. Louis look very good. 270 not giving you any trouble. 170, 64, 55, all is well. I'm Sean Erickson at 346 on 97.1 FM Talk.
Well, if you need some new flooring, I have a perfect answer for you. That's the team at Michael's Flooring Outlet here in St. Louis with 3 awesome locations. We've done some work with Michael's in the last couple of years, and I guarantee you a couple of things. You're going to get a ton of experience. You're going to get a team that really knows the ins and outs of flooring and flooring technology, and that's important because technology, like anything else, we're going to talk about all kinds of stuff with George Rosenthal from ThrottleNet tomorrow night. We call it Tech Talk Tuesdays. Well, the waterproof technology, the pet-proof, the scratch-proof technology, the ease in which you can clean some of the flooring, which might not be natural wood, but it certainly might look like wood and perform like wood. And, of course, your lifestyle really is going to matter. And that's why you need the team at Michael's Flooring Outlet. They have 3 great locations. Every day except for Sunday, they're open in Old Town St. Peters and Darien Prairie and in West County on Olive. So if you need their help, they're there for you. I just noticed that this is pretty funny. I've been talking about Michael's for I don't know how many years, but on their website, there's a little button that I've never seen before that says, I think it says About Us. And then when you press About Us, it says Pissed Off. And it says, are you pissed off? Give us a chance to make it right. If you don't tell us, we don't know about it. Simply enter your thoughts in the form below. We'll work to make sure the situation is right and prevent it from happening again in the future. I like that. That's a good approach. And I can't believe I'm just seeing that now. But that's the kind of reaction and the service you're going to get from Michael's in those 3 great locations. The website, igotfloored.com.
Hey, it's Annie. Grab your clubs and head to Tamarack Golf Course on Friday, May 22nd for the St. Clair County Republicans annual golf tournament. Shotgun start, 18 holes, carts, contest, lunch, and great prizes. Learn more at 971talk.com/events.
Beat the spring cleaning rush and call my friends at Zero Res. Mark Cox here. It's the perfect time to clean your air ducts as you deal with allergy season. You know, your furnace, your AC efficiency, all of that matters. Your air ducts are like the lungs of your home. If they're dirty, your indoor air is going to suffer. Right now, you get a whole system air duct cleaning for just $5.99. Pay less for fresh. Call 314-474-2020 or go online at ZeroResSTL.com.
Don't let tax refund worries hold you back. File now with TurboTax on Intuit Credit Karma. They'll find every credit and deduction to help you get every refund dollar you deserve or your money back. Start filing today in the Credit Karma app.
This is the Mark Reardon Show on 97.1 FM Talk, St. Louis Conservative.
An update here on the weather. We do have tornado warnings that are in effect until 4 p.m. for southeastern Jersey, northwestern Madison counties in southwestern Illinois, and then the northeastern St. Charles County and north central St. Louis counties. So that's until just a few minutes from now. We've had some situations where there have been high winds, hail, and all the kind of things you get with severe weather. So the National Weather Service says take precautions, move to an interior room or the lowest level, and we'll certainly keep you posted on all of that. You know, on the Jimmy Kimmel thing, if you missed the line, here's the line. And, you know, this is important because he said stupid crap like this before, right? And here's the question I would have for Jimmy Kimmel and maybe the McNerney family who are listening today. Anybody know them, or if they're familiar with Molly, who is Jimmy Kimmel's wife? And I wonder if I said something, or if conservative, let's say Scott Jennings, said something about Molly McNerney being a widow and alluding to that in the way that Jimmy Kimmel did, like this.
First Lady Melania is here. Look at Melania, so beautiful. Mrs. Trump, you have a glow like an expectant widow.
How would you feel if that was being leveled every night against Molly, who, by the way, has lost her sense of humor because she's a writer, and I don't know if she was ever funny, but Jimmy's not funny anymore, so somebody might from the family want to get involved and tell her how badly her husband's show sucks. But outside of that, let's not forget that on September 15th, Jimmy Kimmel goes on. I mean, he's disgusting. He's the worst of the worst, even worse than Colbert at this point. Probably, I think, because Colbert has his lane. He sticks in his lane. Kimmel thinks he's funny still. He's not funny. He's doing a political show, and he can do that, but he's not funny. So, of course, after the Charlie Kirk assassination, he goes on his show and says, we've hit some new lows over the weekend with the MAGA gang desperately trying to characterize this kid who murdered Charlie Kirk as anything other than one of them and doing everything they can to score political points from it. Well, it was a joke. It was not a joke. It was inaccurate. I'm reading something from the Hollywood Reporter that says the joke was an observation of far-right Republicans scrambling to distance themselves from the ideologies of Kirk's assassin. That wasn't true at all. And everything that he said was not accurate. It was very clear by the time that he told that joke that Tyler Robinson was going after Charlie Kirk because of his ideology. Right. But that's not the narrative that came out. You know, the narrative that came out after this weekend was, oh, this is another hoax to take away from the Epstein files and Iran. So somehow, you know, the CIA paid this kid to barrel through the security. So you might remember that because he, and it's so funny the way that the Hollywood Reporter writes this, Kimmel's punishment for jumping to the wrong conclusion wasn't jumping to the wrong conclusion. He knew what the conclusion was. And it was just ridiculous. So then, of course, he pulls the Tallarico stunt not too long after that. He picks on Trump. We give him far too much attention because, you know, he makes these comments about Trump. But when he said this about the First Lady, I really think this crosses a different line. And think about Molly for a second there, Jim. You okay if I'm talking about Molly that way, or if I say something mean-spirited about her, your wife, and you'd be okay with that? I mean, he doesn't care about me. I'm just a little guy here in St. Louis. But if Scott Jennings or someone on Fox, Greg Gutfeld, said something about her and alluded to your death in a threatening way, by the way, having a pattern of alluding to things like that, having a pattern of talking about how he's dangerous and a threat to democracy and authoritarian, all these people. You know, I mentioned Springsteen earlier. There's no respect that I have at this point because he goes on stage last night at, you know, his Streets of Minneapolis tour. And this is a guy that I've seen 45 times in concert, you know, one of my heroes. Sat next to him at a movie one time, true story. He goes out there every night during this tour and he gives this big, rousing speech, several of them. And by the way, I've seen Springsteen all the time. He's never done this. Never done this. He's said some things, never done what he's doing now. But then last night, I guess, just because of the mood and the tone of the assassination attempt where, you know, God knows how many people could have been taken out, including media members. He offers a prayer and he offers hope and he wants people to come together and he hopes, and he's glad that no one's hurt. Well, no, Bruce, you can't do that after spending 3 weeks on the road ramping up the rhetoric. Same thing that happens with James Carville or the people on CNN on a regular basis calling for violence on the left. They've done it. Ilhan Omar, the rest of them, they don't condemn the violence. This is not a two-party thing. Steve Scalise was in that room the other night. He was almost killed by a left-wing person from right here in the St. Louis area, right? In Illinois. Charlie Kirk. Trump 3 times. How many more times do you need here? Where's the evidence? Brian Thompson. Where's all the political violence on the right? Charlottesville. Oh, wait a second. That was also a joke that the left organized in what it looks like an illegal fashion, right? January 6th. Okay, that was not a good thing. I wasn't proud of that day. I criticized it, but good Lord, the left wing doesn't criticize any of this. They pray. They love these guys. You got Hassan Piker, who thinks 9/11 was a conspiracy, coming in for Cori Bush this week on Friday for a May Day event. You think they'll back down on all the rhetoric about Trump? You think they'll make a reference to wishing he was killed? I would almost absolutely guarantee it that will happen. And I hope she gets attention for that. But having said that, those are her people. You know, Rasheen Aldridge on the Board of Aldermen, Megan Green on the Board of Aldermen. These people believe this. They love this stuff. They want Trump dead. They're sometimes not even afraid to say it. And these are those who walk amongst us. Let's not forget that. These are those who are supposed to solve the problems of downtown St. Louis, which is beyond help. I can promise you that. We got Sue's News coming up with Ethan because Sue's off. We might get an update from Dave Murray and Tim Fitch, former St. Louis County Police Chief, weighing in on the assassination attempts. All that's coming up.
Traffic from the 97.1 FM Talk Traffic Center.
Watch for a stall on 70 eastbound before Mid-Rivers Mall Drive. It's in the right lane, taking out partial right lane anyway. 270 southbound past Ladue. Right shoulder and partial right lane taken out with another stalled vehicle. 44 westbound before Southwest High Avenue. We've got another stalled vehicle. That's not in a lane, though. And westbound on 70 is really jammed up getting into the Wright City area. There's a left lane closed due to flooding in the area, so give yourself plenty of extra time if you're headed out west. I'm Trent Erickson at 3:56 on 97.1 FM Talk.
I saw someone over the weekend who works for Mark and Neil Gelman, and I had met her one previous time because I saw her putting up some real estate signs, and it said the Gelman team on there. And I said to her, I didn't even know her. I said, man, you work with those guys? I feel sorry for you. Well, I was joking because Mark and Neil are friends of mine, and they do great work here in St. Louis, and they can help you with buying and selling your home. And they're not going to lie to you. It's just different. You know, it's certainly a different market, and you have situations where homes are going well over asking prices if they are in great shape, if they're move-in condition, if they don't have a deck that's falling apart, all these things. But the governments can guide you through that process and help you get into another home where you're not overpaying and where you're getting everything that you want. And it is a trickier time to do this. But look, if you're looking even for just a quick answer for free of how much your home is really worth, if you go to thegelmanteam.com, you can click on the top of the page where it literally says, how much is your home really worth? Find out for free. You click on that, you'll have to okay a pop-up, and then you get your address in there. It'll feed you back a very accurate portrayal of what the price might be if you list the home. And then if you need the Gelmans, Mark, Neil, any of the team members, they're there for you. If you can hear my voice, they can help you in the St. Louis area. And you can always go online to register for a free account to receive email notifications or anything like that if you need the Gelman team in the future. Check them out, 314-336-1991 online, thegelmanteam.com.
According to MasterCard, nearly half of small businesses have been a victim of a cyber attack. As cybercrime escalates, ThrottleNet is calling on businesses to strengthen their security posture by taking a free online IT security audit right from your desk. This 3-minute online assessment provides an immediate score to see security gaps and vulnerabilities in your network. For 26 years, ThrottleNet has supported your business IT everything right here in St. Louis. In fact, no client of ThrottleNet has ever paid a ransom. So visit ThrottleNet.com/971 to take the free assessment today.
Imagine this, a summer evening, relaxing under a beautiful porch overhang, hosting your friends on a composite deck, or enjoying a bug-free breeze in a screened room. That sounds dreamy, right? Hi, it's Kim, and that dream can be your reality with Lakeside Renovation and Design because they specialize in creating outdoor spaces that make your backyard the go-to spot for family and friends. And with their attention to detail and the high-quality materials they use, you'll have a space that lasts for years. Visit lakesiderd.com today to get started on your outdoor oasis.
I'm John Morgan of Morgan & Morgan, America's largest injury law firm. Over 35 years, I've seen it all. Car crashes, work injuries, defective products, medical mistakes, lives flipped upside down in an instant. But I've also seen something else, the power of fighting back, the power of winning. Over $30 billion recovered and counting. Size matters, reputation matters, results matter. There's only one Morgan & Morgan.
The choice of a lawyer is an important decision and should not be based solely upon advertisements. Past results afford no guarantee of future results. Every case is different and must be judged on its own merits.
If you're trusting someone to manage your money, take a moment to do your homework. Make sure they are properly registered and check their professional history. I'm Denny Hoskins, Missouri Secretary of State. Our office regulates investing and works to protect investors. Call the Missouri Securities Hotline at 800-721-7996 or visit MissouriProtectsInvestors.com. Paid for by the Missouri Investor Education and Protection Fund. This is a public service announcement.
I'm not an expert, but I always say that the atmosphere is very combustible in moments like this, which I believe is relatively accurate. Dave Murray is going to join us in all likelihood in the next hour with an update.
KFTK FM Florissant from the Kaufman Townsley St. Louis's Injury Lawyers Studio. Call 314-777-7777.
That's 314-777-7777.
Attempt to kill the president. Lisa Brady, Fox News.
Cole Allen's journey of accountability in the criminal justice system starts today.
U.S. Attorney for D.C. Jeanine Pirro, as a California teacher, is charged with attempted assassination of the president and 2 gun counts, with more charges expected over Saturday's shooting outside a hotel ballroom where the White House Correspondents' Dinner was being held. FBI Director Kash Patel commending the quick response of the Secret Service and multiple other law enforcement agencies.
They did exactly what they were trained to do. They stopped a massive attack from becoming even worse. They stood in the way, they safeguarded America, and they should be nothing but applauded.
Investigators say the suspect had reserved a room earlier this month, traveled cross-country by train, and checked into the hotel Friday. Arrested after trying to run past a security barricade, where a Secret Service officer was shot and saved by a bulletproof vest before opening fire on Allen, who was not hit. As that investigation continues, so will a review of security protocols. But White House spokeswoman Caroline Leavitt says the president is undeterred.
He does not want these deranged lunatics and these grave acts of political violence to change our American way of life. And I think it's a very brave thing for him to say. It'd be very easy for him to just hunker down here at the White House where he knows he's safe, but the president wants to be out across the country.
The administration also making a renewed push for the president's White House ballroom project, citing security concerns and asking a court to dismiss a lawsuit. House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries.
The defendant should be prosecuted to the full and complete extent of the law.
He says political violence directed at anyone is unacceptable. Britain's King Charles also undeterred by the shooting, just arriving at the White House with Queen Camilla for the first of several events this week. America is listening to Fox News.
I move mountains for a living. Literally. That means I don't carry hand lotion, and when it comes to serious heartburn, I don't mess around with anything but Rolaids. Rolaids' dual-active formula has calcium carbonate and magnesium hydroxide that relieves heartburn fast. Yeah, you heard right. 2 actives for that powerful relief. And the best part? The roll fits right here in my pocket, so I can get back to moving mountains.
Rolade spells powerful relief. Read each label. Use as directed. Keep out of reach of children.
My name is Whitney Allen, and I'm a widow. My husband, Ryan, died. We never thought we'd ever have to use life insurance, but the unexpected happened. With Ethos, signing up was fast and 100% online. You can get a quote in seconds, apply in minutes, and get same-day coverage. No medical exams, and you can get up to $3 million worth of coverage. I'm grateful we were prepared.
Get your free quote at ethos.com/term. That's ethos.com/term. Paid spokesperson. Time spent on application may vary. Online health questions required.
Air Comfort Service, heating, cooling, and insulation. Weather.
The official 97.1 FM Talk Weather Center forecast severe thunderstorms this evening with a significant risk for damaging wind gusts, tornadoes, and large hail. Otherwise clear to partly cloudy, the low 54. Tuesday, sunshine mixing with some clouds, a thunder shower in spots in the afternoon, the high of 70. Sun and a few clouds Wednesday, breezy in the afternoon, the high of 66. I'm meteorologist Jason Caterina for 97.1 FM Talk.
This hour of the Mark Reardon Show is sponsored by Gamma Tree Experts. Your trees deserve the best care. Call Gamma Tree Experts. This is the Mark Reardon Show on 97.1 FM Talk.
Well, Fred, you and I have been here many times before with severe weather coverage, right? And sometimes you kind of get lulled into thinking that it's over. And we've had these storms and tornado warnings that have been active for, I'd say, like 4 hours now, right?
You know, I'm learning today, and I didn't know this before, that when it's, sunny and bright out, that's usually a sign that something bad's about to happen.
Well, it's like maybe the eye of the hurricane or something like that, right?
Right.
Well, all right. So where we are right now is a lot of the storm activity is certainly well to the north, moving northwest of downtown. Like I'm looking at the map right now, and areas like Staunton, Illinois are going to get hit rather. But we have another round that is coming from the southeast.
Down around Springfield.
Right. And when I was looking at that sort of comes up right up 44, it looks like, and it's going to be a little bit more of a direct hit. The weather folks are taking this very seriously, so I think we should take it very seriously because it's just one of those, situations where I like to say, just simplifying it, the atmosphere is combustible, and you can kind of feel it out there. So stay safe. We'll keep you posted. We have Dave Murray coming up, I believe, right before Sue's news. Sue is off for a couple more days. She'll be back on Wednesday, but we're going to get you as much coverage here as we possibly can. A little bit later this hour, Tim Fitch is going to join us, former St. Louis County Police Chief. He'll have some reaction to the White House Correspondents' Center shooting. Cusumano will be here. Not the best weekend for our Cardinals, Fred, right?
No.
Man, just, right when we were kind of getting a little hope there.
And it was opposites because Saturday's game was a lot of run scoring, and it went back and forth, and then Sunday, very few runs.
It was like 3-2,
yeah,
right?
Right.
And I couldn't watch Saturday. I was, I did some yard work on Saturday, Fred. You'd be impressed with the amount of weeds that I pulled. Oh, my God. It's unbelievable. But I kept seeing the alerts come through on my, my phone and my iPad. And So
it was
that
like
was
a
interesting.
home run derby.
Yes. It was like the Cardinals are down, and then they're up 7-4, and then they're down 8-7. I'm getting the scores wrong, but it was really pretty nuts. So we'll certainly talk a little sports with Cusumano. In the next hour here, Jeff Mordock, he was there the other night at the White House Correspondents' Center. He's with the Washington Times. And
I'm curious to hear what he has to say.
Yeah, me too.
He wasn't in the room, but he says he was several feet away from the shooter.
Right. So he might have had more access than a lot of the reporters did that evening. The other thing is, as we mentioned, Scott Jennings was there. He's going to join us tomorrow afternoon. He couldn't be with us today because he has an audience with the King and Queen of England.
So, yeah, weak excuse.
That's where he's come.
Yeah.
Just think about how long we've known Jennings, and these are the types of things that we're getting rejected on. Nope, I got to meet the King and Queen. Good for him. Let me say this, too, in all sincerity. Scott did a great job with I will say this, CNN did a great job on Saturday night. They really did. And Van Jones was sitting next to Scott, and, they weren't making about the politics. They were talking about the event and covering it and, just the history of Trump and the assassination attempts. And the rhetoric that you sometimes hear during those segments with Abby Phillip was certainly toned down quite a bit because of the moment. And what I told Scott, I'll tell him this tomorrow, he, it's crazy when I think about this, but he was a news guy that anchored news on WHAS in the middle of the night 30 years ago when I listened to Joe Arnold, and now we're all mutual friends. So he has news instincts, right? And I think what I saw, this happens to me, Fred, like even on a day like this,
right.
We have breaking news, breaking weather. Scott's news judgment kicked in, and he was really exceptional at describing what was going on. And, one of the things, he wasn't the only one who said this. The president said this. I think I heard Carolyn say this and others, that you had all these people that were in this room for a celebration of freedom of speech, really, essentially. And, this happens. Now, the president, I think I'm going to be very disappointed because we're never going to get to hear this material.
Yeah.
Maybe we will. But what he had said at one point, he goes, look, I was going to rip it pretty good tonight. He goes, but now I can't do that. I'm probably going to have to be nice if we redo this again.
Trump.
Yeah, exactly. Which, you could... that could have been amazing in that room. There were people that were in that room that I thought might avoid it just because, it's Trump and everything, but he was going to have a little fun. And then, this is what's so weird for me with Trump, and I don't know how the media members react because most of the folks we have on the air have good relationships with him, although there are folks that, were on the bad list for a while, like Spicer. But, he rips Caitlin Collins a new one all the time. You're so nasty. And the other night, he was like so nice to her and complimentary to her. It's like, and Weijia Zhang, who was in charge, I think she's in charge of the White House Correspondents, event. And he's like, look, Weijia did a great job. So he's got this love-hate relationship. Look, he even ripped Riley Gaines a couple of weeks ago, and I thought that was terrible that he did that because Riley is an ally. I do want to say one thing about Weijia because she just tweeted this out, and I retweeted our friend Lisa Desjardins, who's from the PBS NewsHour. The Hilton, where this was supposed to take place, they had 2,600 dinners that were unserved at the White House Correspondents' Dinner. They freeze-dried the steak and lobster for a longer shelf life before giving them to 2 shelters for abused women and children. Huge thank you to the staff that worked through the night under terrible circumstances. That's awesome.
Wow, I never thought about that.
Yeah, I wouldn't have thought about that either.
The one thing you brought up about CNN had good coverage, and you've said this before, when the major cable networks stick to the breaking news without opinion,
they're both pretty good.
A great job.
Fox's disadvantage was, and I think CNN had a bit of a disadvantage too. A lot of the people that were on Fox were in the room, and I'm not alleging anything, but one of the things that I literally thought about on Saturday night is, and maybe the situation would have been different if this occurs after the dinner and everything, but there had to be some wine flowing and stuff like that, and there may have been some people from a variety of networks that might not have been prepared or in a situation to go on network television, right? I'm not saying I know anything about that. I'm just saying at an event like that where you're not expecting to go on the air, anything really could have happened. But Fox was playing a little catch-up with their reporting. And then poor Jackie Heinrich, she basically controls everything. And she looked just beautiful. She had this amazing dress on, and her eyes and the makeup and everything. But it was just bizarre, the circumstances talking about. Look, we could have been talking about, many, many people being taken out here and killed.
And
so
I think we've heard from several of the people in attendance, like Harris Faulkner and John Roberts, saying they pretty much got in without even, they had no problem getting into the event.
Yeah, look, in the aftermath of this, this is something that they're going to have to take a look at. And, for this event in particular, look, the president talked about how the White House ballroom was going to hopefully enforce the security a lot more, and it's going to be better. But after 3 assassination attempts, and you see how, look, I'll play what Harris said, because they said their tickets were wet. They didn't really have to show. They had paper tickets, which that in and of itself is a little weird, right?
Point of fact, we had 2 tickets. The guy didn't even want to see them both, and one of them was wet from the rain. They weren't even looking at those tickets, some of them. A dinner ticket or a copy of an invite to many of the pre-dinner parties would have sufficed, but I just gave you the layout. It was pouring. They weren't reading all that stuff.
So, if you think about that, this idiot kid didn't even have to really run in there if he didn't want to, if you knew it was that easy to basically sneak in to an event like this. John Roberts kind of confirms this too.
You know, one of the things that I noticed, because I stayed at the hotel with my wife on Saturday night, we ended up actually bailing out, not using the room, but I parked our car, which was an SUV in the self-parking, under the hotel. And then because I had a virtual key, I took my luggage, which was her gown, my tux, and an overnight bag, went into the entrance from the garage, got in the elevator, flashed my virtual key up to our floor, and went right up. So, I mean, I just had luggage, but I could have brought anything into that hotel, and it would appear that that's what this gunman did.
What was the soundbite? This was the guy who, is this the guy, Darren Porcher, who's with NYPD?
He's a former NYPD detective.
So he is extremely critical of the security. I want you to hear this.
I've done a lot of these presidential details. I've worked the Bush detail, I've worked the Clinton detail, I've worked the Obama detail. And the one thing that's been a common denominator is whenever we were in a hotel, we had an officer with a machine gun in that stairwell. If there was an officer with a machine gun in that stairwell, this assailant would not have been able to venture onto those grounds. In addition to that, when we look at the connecting security matrix from zone 1, 2, etc., there should have been enough communication to afford the people that were in these areas to not let someone get to that point in question.
Look, I remember when I was in Spain a couple years ago, and I was actually there when Obama and, Spielberg were there. And I mean, the level of security, those guys with machine guns, they were everywhere, right? But he says something else interesting here, Darren Porcher.
As we look at the security level, we think of the inauguration as a level 1. When the president is addressing Congress, that would be a level 1 as well. However, President Trump has been under enormous threats as we look at the past assassination attempts. Therefore, he should have been elevated to a level 1, and this didn't happen. And so as a result of this, the manifestation of the event that occurred transpired, and the Secret Service could have done a better job. Magnetometers should have been outside as well as inside. There should have been 2 focal points of searches, but this didn't happen.
I thought, don't we have a soundbite from someone who is really critical because the president wasn't,
If you stop, it's right at the end of that cut.
Oh, well, that's where I thought it was, but I played the whole cut.
Oh, okay. Yeah, he said, J.D. Vance got taken off right away. He was probably sitting in his car by the time they got President Trump
How
off
did that
the,
not
off
play,
the
or did I
dais.
play the same one? I'll have to figure that out, Fred. I don't know.
Okay.
We'll take a break. We may or may not have Sue's News with Ethan because Dave Murray's going to join us.
Traffic from the 97.1 FM Talk Traffic Center.
A couple of slow spots just because of some stalls. 270 northbound just past Dorset. It's off on your right side, but people are slowing to take a look. 70 eastbound, the exit to Union, we've got some debris in the lane there, and one of the lanes getting off. And 44 westbound before Union, a right shoulder taken out with another stall, and then some flooding in the Wright City area. It's 70 westbound is very heavy getting into that area because you got a left lane closed due to some flooding after some weather moved through. I'm Trent Erickson at 4:15 on 97.1 FM Talk.
We've been here 30 years, 30 Christmases in this house, and we have the traditions that most families have.
That's Terry talking about her experience with Rhino Shield ceramic coating.
We did Rhino Shield 14 years ago, and the house still looks the same as the first day. Rhino Shield really worked with me to help me get just the right nice soft yellow, and it's 14 years later, and it's the same color.
The main reason Terry called Rhino Shield is because it's backed by its 25-year transferable warranty.
It just sounded wonderful that we could have the house coated with Rhino Shield and not have to worry about it again for 25 years.
Take it from Terry. Give Rhino Shield a call now for a free evaluation. 877-25-RHINO. 877-25-RHINO. Or visit 877-25rhino.com.
There have been neighbors that have come by and said, "Did you just have your house painted?" Because they wanted to know who the contractor was. And I said, "No, it's actually Rhino Shield."
877-25rhino.com.
Hey, let's talk about getting you some cash because you might be cash poor right now. And Stewie from Stewart's American Mortgage would love to help you with that situation. Now, you might say, look, we can't do that. We have a low rate right now. Why would I want to refi? Well, you want to refi because with Stewie and his way of doing business, you don't have to worry about paying all those fees, et cetera. So if you are in a cash poor situation and you need some help right now, that's when you contact Stewie at Stewie's American Mortgage. And, I've gotten a chance to know him over the last, I would say 5 months. He came to our birthday party, and it was awesome because Annie had been talking about him for years. I didn't really know him, and then I found out what he does, and kind of what he does is very unique, and it's a way for you to save money in a time where you might be a little bit afraid to refi. What he'll tell you is if you look at the rate you have right now, and if you look at the options that he has for you, because he's going to give you other options that lenders can't here in St. Louis, do the math, see if you can save yourself some money. By the way, you're not locked into anything if you just call him, get in touch with him, and say, look, I heard Annie or Mark talking about you on 97.1 FM Talk. So what is this all about? How can you say, for example, and make the claims that when we refi with you that we're not going to have any of those fees or closing costs or title fees, broker fees? Why is that? How can you do that? Well, he'll explain it to you. He can also close you in as little as 10 days. So if you need help and maybe you're buying a home, they can help you out with all this. You won't end up on hold forever because Stuart and his son Jordan handle all the loans. It's that simple. Google the Bagel Loan. Call or text his cell, 314-324-4440, NMLS number 226715.
Mark Cox here. Join me, Annie Fry, and Mark Reardon, along with Thomas Helbig and Bob Kershaw of the Retirement Advisory Group, as they show you how to create a worry-free retirement. It's Tuesday, April 28th at the Doubletree Hotel in Chesterfield at 6:30. Here are Thomas and Bob with more.
Are you nearing retirement or already retired and would like to know how to turn your 401k and IRA into a worry-free retirement? Would you like to learn the investment strategy that gives you market growth while avoiding the market losses at the same time?
Would you like to get your free personalized retirement income plan? Did you also know if you're 59 and a half or older, you can roll over your company retirement plan tax-free and have a worry-free retirement? If you're 59 and a half or older, you cannot afford to miss this event.
Have a worry-free retirement and join the official financial advisors of my show, Thomas Helbig and Bob Kershaw. It's at the Doubletree Hotel in Chesterfield, Tuesday, April 28th at 6:30 p.m. Go to retirementkey.com. That's retirementkey.com.
It is not hard to destroy a college. Last season, the podcast Campus Files brought you stories of fraternity drug rings, stolen body parts, campus cults, and more.
And now, Campus Files is back for another season.
There's a guy screaming into his phone. He's like, I just saw Charlie Kirk get assassinated right in front of me.
Every week is a new episode and a new story.
It was so chaotic. It's almost like a university under siege.
Listen to and follow Campus Files, available now wherever you get your podcasts.
You're listening to The Mark Reardon Show, 97.1 FM Talk, St. Louis Conservative.
All right, we may or may not have a little bit of a shortened version of Sue's news. Sue's out till Wednesday. She's diamond hunting in Arkansas. We got some pictures over the weekend. But Dave Murray, meteorologist, is here with us to give us the latest on the weather, which has been very interesting throughout the course of the day. Hi, Dave. How are you?
Oh, I'm doing just fine.
We've got, looking at what I've seen, a lot of this stuff has moved to the north or northwest of downtown St. Louis, but we got another round coming in here. Is that what we're looking for?
Yeah, the closest batch right now is what came through portions of St. Charles County and Jersey County in Illinois. That is now basically around from Bunker Hill, Staunton, Mount Olive, Litchfield, up to Carlinville, up to Raymond. And that's moving away. That's moving away very quickly. There is one little thunderstorm warning on that, but that's going to expire in a couple of minutes. The front, and that's what we're watching. No real boundary formed for us, so we're just waiting for the front. If anything, the boundary is developing across southeast Missouri and southern Illinois, so that's not a concern. But the front is active, and the front is moving our way slowly. It's going to speed up a little bit, but it's running from about Hannibal down to Mexico, just starting to push into Columbia and Jefferson City right now, and then it goes all the way down into portions of Oklahoma. That is a severe line. It's got thunderstorm warnings on it. It's got a couple of tornado warnings on it. The storms itself along the front are moving to the northeast, so it's going to push our way, but it's going to take a little time. Out ahead of that, there should be some isolated thunderstorms that try to develop in the St. Louis area. That will happen over the next 2 hours or so, and the front itself comes through probably by about 8 or 9 o'clock tonight. That's why the tornado watch is in effect until 9 o'clock tonight. So we're not, even though the sun's out in a lot of places, sun's not a good thing in this case because it kind of punches up the atmosphere. But we've got to get the front through, and until the front comes through, we still have to be a little bit on guard. But things are relatively quiet right now, and will stay relatively quiet for about the next hour and a half.
So when we get into the 5 to 6 o'clock hour, the last hour of the show, and beyond that is when we're going to kind of keep an eye on things, right?
Yeah, it will start to percolate a little bit, and then I think as far as the front and the storms right along the front, a concern probably 8, 9 o'clock tonight.
All right, Dave, thanks for the update. The rest of the week doesn't look too bad, though, right?
No, there's a secondary cold front coming through tomorrow evening with some showers and thunderstorms, scattered variety, not severe. Wednesday, Thursday looking delightful. Northwest flow, 68 for high with lots of sunshine Wednesday and again on Thursday.
Perfect. We appreciate the update this afternoon. Thanks, Dave.
You got it.
All right. Hopefully things will stay somewhat calm and not get too crazy. But that's the very latest. All right. I think we do have time for a shortened Sue's News today. If I can hit the button. Ethan, are you ready?
Bring it on.
All right. Let's go.
These allegations are deeply concerning.
Does the president have any comment?
We're not going to comment.
It's not clear messaging.
No. And now, Sue's News. Brought to you by Sue.
Happy National Gummy Bear Day. You guys gummy bear dudes?
I'm not.
No?
No.
Mark?
I go through stages when I like them quite a bit, yes. Now, that question takes on a different meaning in this era with gummies that include CBD and THC. But yeah, not my favorite candy. I'm kind of a Twizzlers guy when it comes to like that type of candy, but I like a gummy bear every once in a while.
If there is a level to the kind of candy I'm drawn to, chocolate, like I have a very hard time like withholding myself when it comes to chocolate. If those are around, gummy bears, Starburst, that kind of stuff, like, I'll have some, but chocolate's where I run into issues.
Yeah, me too.
Do you have any doomers in your life? I saw this headline and I said, oh boy, I have to read this one. Let me tell you guys what a doomer is. It's the kind of person who always sends you bad news or tends to be overly pessimistic.
I have no idea what you're talking about.
I know someone like that. Here's what a therapist had to say about it. Doomerism is a mindset that's rooted in chronic pessimism and worst-case scenario thinking. It's that feeling that nothing will get better and nothing you do matters. Now, that's a little bit intense.
I'm not that extreme.
No, you're not. You're not that intense. Unfortunately, and this is a sad reality, and I have to imagine that the number of doomers in today's society is probably higher than ever. Social media plays a really big role.
Oh, yeah.
You've heard of the phrase doom scrolling, yes? I think everyone's been a fallen victim to just scrolling and not realizing, oh, crap, an hour passed by. The more negative content you engage with, the more you see. And this creates the false feeling that your reality is full of despair. So it's kind of a sad thing to acknowledge that there's a lot of people out there that have fallen victim to
It's a vicious cycle. You know, when we had Andrew McCarthy in a few weeks ago, and he was talking about male friendships and things like that, and one of the things that, he keyed in on is how lonely a lot of people are out there, men in particular.
I think social media provides a false sense of comfort.
Yes.
And then all of a sudden you realize, oh, do I really have anyone? Yeah, it's sad. A poll asked recently people to rank their current interest in going to various fast food joints. Men are most likely to prefer which? Any guesses here? Any guesses on...
I'll say on a specific restaurant?
Fast food restaurants,
Okay.
men are more likely to want to go to.
Taco Bell.
Ooh, that might be a good choice. I don't know.
Well, let me just go ahead and go through a few of these. The top 10, it says, and this is for both men and women. At number 1 is McDonald's. So regardless, McDonald's at number 1. Men had Burger King up a couple of spots higher than women did. They were at number 2.
I bet Jack in the Box is higher for men.
Men also had Popeyes in their top 10 and had higher opinions on KFC, Domino's, and Arby's. Women were big fans of Dairy Queen. That was up there for them, not for men. So kind of interesting to see the preferences, what the different genders are looking at and comparing. A lot of women also had Wendy's at number 1. So I don't know, just kind of interesting to compare the two.
Was Taco Bell on there at all?
Taco Bell was on there. It was at number 5 for men.
Okay.
Do you do Popeyes?
No.
I don't think I've done
Like, we don't really
Popeyes.
have,
Yeah.
where I live, we don't really have Popeyes.
I've never even been to Popeyes. I don't think.
They have, if you go up to North County, you think there's more Popeyes up there.
We missed a popular one yesterday. Yesterday was National Pretzel Day. And if you celebrated, you might be left with an empty bag full of salt, yes? Well, get this. A random online poll asked people, do you eat the salt at the bottom of the pretzel bag? 32% said yes.
I'm going to say no.
32%.
I'm a no on that. Maybe that's the answer.
That seems high.
That's what I'm saying.
Our blood
Is
pressure.
that not
problem.
weird?
That they're digging down into the bottom of the bag for just the salt.
Straight up salt.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I kind of shake the salt off the pretzel if I can.
I know, right, Fred?
Yeah.
I'm with you.
Last Thursday, the Las Vegas Raiders selected quarterback Fernando Mendoza with the number 1 overall pick in the NFL draft, and he's projected to make $10 million in his first season in the NFL, but he had a really cool moment of giving back. He announced that he would be donating $500,000 to the National MS Society to accelerate progress toward a world free of multiple sclerosis, and this, of course, being because his mother suffers from it. That's why he watched
at home.
Was not at the draft.
Right.
He was at home, and they showed his mom and dad on TV a lot during the national championship and whatnot. So a cool story, and good on him for giving back a little bit to an important cause. All right, is it, we got a couple of seconds here before the random fact. Couple of quick birthdays. Happy birthday to Lizzo, 38 years old today. Uncle Si from Duck Dynasty is 78. And a quick on this day in history. In 2006, construction began on the 1,776-foot tower for the new World Trade Center in New York City called One World Trade Center. The building opened in October of 2014, and the elevators that take you to the observation deck have LED walls that show a computer-animated time-lapse of New York being built and rebuilt over the past 500 years. If you have not done it, it is really cool.
Yeah, that's kind of cool. Where can you find that?
That's it. That's One
in
World
the
Trade.
elevator.
Yeah,
It's
in the elevator. Yes,
that they show that?
as you are going up
that's
to
awesome.
the top floor.
I did not know that.
Okay, final, let's see, random fact here to wrap up Ethan's news. The Luna moth only survives 6 or 7 days once reaching adulthood because it has no mouth and dies of starvation. Their sole purpose is to reproduce.
Poor little guys. Although maybe not.
I'm Dan Loney with Your Money Now. Amazon has signed a multi-year deal for the audio and video rights to the Oprah podcast. The podcast features interviews by Oprah Winfrey with cultural figures on a wide range of topics. The deal will also connect several well-known Winfrey brands with commercial appeal to Amazon. The NFL Draft continues to be an economic windfall for the cities that host the annual traveling event. Pittsburgh drew 805,000 people over the 3 days this past weekend, which is an all-time record. Now, Detroit, which held the prior record at over 700,000 fans, had an estimated $160 million of economic impact in 2024. No final financials are yet ready for Pittsburgh, but it is expected to be larger than Detroit. Wall Street finished the session mixed, with the NASDAQ and the S&P 500 posting record closes for the third time in the last 5 trading sessions. Dow was down 63 points at 49,168. And that's Your Money Now.
Finding great candidates to hire can be like, well, trying to find a needle in a haystack. Sure, you can post your job to some job board, but then all you can do is hope the right person comes along. Which is why you should try ZipRecruiter for free at ZipRecruiter.com/free. ZipRecruiter doesn't depend on candidates finding you. It finds them for you. Its powerful technology identifies people with the right experience and actively invites them to apply to your job. You get qualified candidates fast. So while other companies might deliver a lot of hay, ZipRecruiter finds you what you're looking for. The needle in the haystack.
See why 4 out of 5 employers who post a job on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within the first day. ZipRecruiter, the smartest way to hire. And right now, you can try ZipRecruiter for free. That's right, free at ZipRecruiter.com/free. That's ZipRecruiter.com/free. ZipRecruiter.com/free.
ZipRecruiter.
When it comes to selling your home, the agent you choose matters more than anything. Hey, it's Mark Cox. I'm with my friend and trusted realtor, Gloria Liu, Your Home Sold Guaranteed Realty. Gloria, what should sellers really be looking for in an agent?
Thank you. You're going to select a realtor with a proven system. Someone who knows how to price your home right, create strong demand, negotiate for top dollar, and guarantee results. I see it all the time. Last year, hundreds of homes in St. Louis came off the market unsold and needed multiple price reductions. That's what happens when the right strategy isn't in place. I do things differently. My focus is to help you sell for the most money possible, not just to list your home and hope it sells. Plus, I even guarantee to sell your home for 100% market value, or I'll pay you the difference.
Make sure you choose the right agent the first time. Call the one I trust, Gloria Liu, 314-325-6888, or visit GloriaHasTheBuyers.com. That's GloriaHasTheBuyers.com. Gloria and seller must agree on price and possession.
It's time for a $98 AC tune-up.
432, this portion of the show is sponsored by Jerry Kelly, heating, air conditioning, electrical, and plumbing.
From Fenton to Fairview, 97.1 FM Talk, St. Louis Conservative.
You know, we talked about this on Friday. Carolyn was supposed to wrap up her duties before she gives birth, but today came back into the briefing room because of the events of the weekend.
As I told many of you on Friday afternoon, I thought that would be my last time taking your questions until after my maternity leave. But given the attempted assassination of the president and, quote, top Trump administration officials, as the depraved shooter noted in his manifesto at the White House Correspondents Association dinner on Saturday evening, I felt it was prudent to be here today to answer your questions and inform the American people about how the administration is responding to yet another attempt on President Trump's life.
So the would-be assassin was supposed to be in court today. She addressed him.
Saturday was supposed to be a joyful evening, celebrating free speech and the First Amendment with all of you, members of the press. Instead, the night was hijacked by a crazed anti-Trump individual who traveled across the country to assassinate the president and as many administration officials as possible. This is the third major assassination attempt against President Trump in 2 years. No other president in history has faced such repeated, serious attempts on his life.
And by the way, it was at the hotel where Ronald Reagan was nearly assassinated way back when in the early 80s. And I remember that day. Look, I've covered news for a long time. I've never, ever remembered the level of political violence aimed at one person in my life and in all of your lives the same way. Former St. Louis County Police Chief, Reardon Roundtable veteran, Tim Fitch is with us this afternoon. My goodness, here we go again. And this is kind of a unique circumstance because it's inside a hotel and everything. How are you this afternoon?
I'm doing great, Mark. Yeah, it is. I've been to that hotel multiple times. In D.C., they call it the Hinckley Hilton.
Right.
Because of what happened there. And, you know, they made some significant changes to the exterior of the hotel after that assassination attempt on Ronald Reagan, where they actually put in a kind of an overhang where the limos for the VIPs can pull in. So you can't get a good bead on any of the VIPs getting out and entering the hotel. But as again, you know, once again, failure to imagine. It's like after September 11th, we didn't really think about how this could happen. And if you read the report on the September 11th report, that's what they say. We didn't imagine. We failed to imagine. So that's what these events and venues have to do, is they have to imagine what else could happen. And by the way, I will tell you that the Secret Service itself, I think it was textbook for them. Remember, their role and responsibility is protecting their protectees. That's their role and responsibilities. It's not screening people who's coming to the hotel. It's not the little breakout rooms where they had these different parties and things like that. They don't control those. That's done typically by hotel security or local police. We saw that in Butler, Pennsylvania. Remember when the guy, Thomas Crooks, climbed up on the roof? The Secret Service thought the local police were covering that, and the local police thought the Secret Service were covering that. So that was a lack of communication there, because typically you work out all those things. I was responsible for handling many of the presidential and vice presidential debates at Washington University, if you remember those. I worked the Pope's detail when he came to St. Louis in '99, John Paul II. So They did send me to Secret Service Dignitary Protection School and their threat assessment training in D.C. The Secret Service did. And I will tell you that everything I saw the Secret Service do the other night was textbook. Now,
yeah, it seemed that way for sure.
A lot to fix there. So they're going to have to do – I just got back from a trip doing some consulting out in Glendale, Arizona, where the State Farm Stadium is. If you remember, that's where the venue was for the Charlie Kirk Memorial. They had 8 days to prepare for 100,000 people to show up at the State Farm Stadium in Glendale. 8 days. They had over 400 police officers there. And think about all the VIPs that were there. A lot of the same people that were in the room Saturday night at the Correspondents' Dinner. Same thing. But the big difference there was they have a huge venue there. So they were able to do a couple different checkpoints before you ever got up to the MAGs. You know, once you get up to the MAGs, that's generally the first place where you'll encounter the Secret Service, the Uniform Division. They fly them all over the country from D.C. when there's a presidential visit. They fly them all over. They set up the MAGs, and they put people through the MAGs. So what they're going to need to do at the Hilton in D.C., if this is where they're going to have it again, is they need to stage a checkpoint way before you get to the MAGs.
Right.
And then you're going to do bag searches. First of all, people shouldn't be allowed to bring in bags. You're going to do bag searches. You're going to do all those things. And that includes any entry from the hotel, not the outside, but from within. So that's where, they're going to have to improve upon this if they decide to have that again there.
Yeah, so look, what we know, at least what we think we know at this point, is this guy traveled from across the country. He did so by rail, maybe in an effort to conceal the weapons. He checked in. Well, first of all, he booked the room a month in advance. He checked in the day before. He got the feel of the lay of the land. Now, most of the people, including the president, have been very complimentary of the Secret Service and, I guess law enforcement. But listen to this. I want your reaction. This is former Congressman Jason Chaffetz on Fox.
It is a fiasco. That extraction of President Trump that you see on the screen was abysmal. Why aren't people fired for that? President Trump was the last one off the stage. Are you kidding me? Everybody else was cleared out. J.D. Vance was sitting in his car by then. And the president is the last person to be extracted off the stage? It is an embarrassment, it is dangerous, and it has to change.
All right, now I saw things a little differently there than the former congressman, but do you have a reaction to that? Because he seemed to be saying, look, the Secret Service did not seize on the president soon enough. I mean, what I saw was everyone was kind of getting grabbed at the same time as quickly as possible, outside of those that were dumped underneath the table, like Erica Kirk, who wasn't whisked out of there right away. But your thoughts on that reaction that he had?
Well, they certainly jerked J.D. Vance out of his chair.
Yes.
I do mean jerked first. There's no doubt about that. And then they got the president up and got him moving. Then they told him to get down.
Yeah.
So they kind of had to do a low crawl to get out of off the stage. Everybody over there did. And I think that's what took it longer for him to get to a place of safety than J.D. Vance. And then, of course, the president himself in his statement said that he was fighting him all the way. He didn't want to go. So, you do try to respect the president, but then sometimes you just have to take over. And that's what they did. They even have a conversation with J.D. Vance. They just snatched him out of his chair. So
we see these things all the time. And I was kind of making an analogy to Busch Stadium. You got to go through the magnetometers, whatever they're called, right? You say the word. What are they? Magnetometers? Magnetometers. Yeah, but if you wanted to just run through that line and get into Busch Stadium, it would take nothing. I'm not suggesting that that's the case, but I bring it up because we've never really seen something like this happen at a presidential event where everyone's in the room, the event's basically getting started. I'm not claiming that these agents at the checkpoint were relaxed or too relaxed, but obviously it's at a point where no one's coming through and getting checked, right? And this guy just starts running at a fast rate of speed. Now, I'm still a little confused how he had a 12 gauge on him, because you would think that would be protruding, or that you'd be able to see that, or it would slow him down just a little bit. But that's what they say. And handguns, at least a 38 caliber weapon, and some knives and maybe some other things. But, for him to get that close to that room, and it probably wouldn't take him but maybe a few more steps, or just a missed arm, or, grab from a Secret Service agent, then he's in that room.
Yeah, he would have been toast, though, once he got in that room. If that weapon was visible, or anybody called out on the radio, gun,
he's taken out.
Would have been, you saw the response as soon as they realized there was a threat. The only fear that I would have had is if he would start shooting and they started shooting back, there's going to be a lot of people hit. even by friendly fire. That's just the nature of how many people were in there. And then everybody's like, well, why wasn't he shot? Why wasn't the bad guy shot? A moving target's hard to hit. That's when we do the training and we talk to people about what to do if you're ever somewhere where something like this happens, is run. Run if you can, because if you can run, a moving target is much harder to hit than somebody stationary. For the skeet shooters out there, if you're a skeet shooter, you know how hard it is to hit a moving target unless you've practiced a lot. Typically, these individuals, I don't know anything about his history yet of guns, but typically these active assailants like this guy, they obtain the weapons a week or so in advance. They haven't really gotten too good with them. They haven't had them for long. I haven't heard how long he's had his. But he clearly, Mark, you and I have talked before about school shootings. There's something called a pathway to targeted or intended violence, and this guy went through every one of them. If you want to go research it, go look at that chart. Did he have a grievance? Sure. Did he have violent ideation? And that's when we heard earlier from one of your guests earlier, where he was talking about this guy felt like the only way to resolve these issues that he took offense to was to use violence. It's called violent ideation. And once they make a decision to attack, it's kind of relieving for them. They feel like, okay, I've got a plan now. I could do something. And then they do research and planning. They do pre-attack preparation, probing and breaches, then bam, the attack happens. So that's exactly what happened in this case, and I think a lot more is going to come out as it.
I think if you read, because some of what he wrote in whatever you want to call it a manifesto or whatever, was written the night before this all happened. He was somewhat mocking the level of security detail that he, expected to encounter as he was kind of walking around trying to figure out his game plan. So that's really somewhat of a concern, and you would think that some of the stuff's going to not happen in the future, especially considering the pattern. Now, the president also made the case that, look, this kind of stuff is one of the reasons we need this ballroom, right? You got, how many 1,200 people staying in that hotel, some of which were, John Roberts said he was going to stay there after the event. I'm sure some other media members, but for the most part, it was a hotel for people doing other things in D.C. And that kid just falls, call him a kid, I guess he was 30, but he falls sort of into the category of any other person who's staying at the hotel, even though he has nefarious, intentions.
Yeah, and you're not going to search, hotel employees are not going to search bags coming in.
No.
They're just not. So get past that they're going to search bags. Okay, so if they open up a bag and they find all kinds of weapons and ammo in there, what do they do next? What's the next move? They're not security or police people. They don't know how to react to that. So I think that, the manifesto, you talk about the manifesto, you only have on average about 90 minutes to find a manifesto. It's usually posted right before the event, 90 minutes or less before the event. So they want to write the manifesto, and they want it to be found because they want people to know why they did what they did. And he probably fully expected to be dead at the end of all of this.
Absolutely, he did. You can just tell, right?
These are suicide missions that also have homicidal intentions. So you just have to plan differently for these at these big events where you have so many people and VIPs there.
It's just awful. I mean, the image that keeps going through my mind is Erica Kirk kind of finally walking out of there, and she's just bawling and saying, "I just want to go home. I can't even fathom the level of PTSD, despite all the other trauma that was inflicted. That's just heartbreaking that happened to her again, and I couldn't blame her from never wanting to go to an event like that in the future. But she, I think they all say, look, you can't back down. You can't let the bad guys win. Chief, great to have you on for your reaction this afternoon. Very appreciate it.
All right, Mike.
All right, take care. Cusumano's coming up. We'll talk sports.
Traffic from the 97.1 FM Talk Traffic Center.
Roadway's moving pretty decent. A stalled vehicle on 70 eastbound before 370. It's off to your right side, and you're finding 55 southbound, another stall right around Arsenal. Watch for some flooding, a lot of flooding in the left lane, westbound on 70. Really heavy getting into the Wright City area way out west because of that left lane down, and they're hoping to get that open soon, but it might be a while. This traffic is brought to you by Point with an E-Pest Control. I'm Trent Erickson at 445 on 97.1 FM Talk.
All right, guys, how you feeling after you get off work? You don't have as much energy as you used to. You're not wanting to play with the kids and do things because maybe you have low testosterone. We can easily diagnose that and come up with a treatment at Game Day Men's Health because Matt Lawrence has an awesome location out in Chesterfield, right off of 6440 Olive and Clarkson, and they're still offering you a free 1-hour visit. And in that hour, you're going to get blood work done. Within 20 minutes, you'll have results. Right after that, you'll sit down with one of the great staff members, and they'll come up with a plan. Now, maybe you're not interested in TRT. Maybe it's something else. Peptides and vitamins have really been getting popular and growing. And Matt will tell you a lot of stuff there. Really, there's misinformation about it. So if you're looking for, vitamin B12 or vitamin B complex injections, triamino acid injections, vitamin C injections, they have all of that. And that's part of the plan that they'll come up with you. There is no one size fits all. They have hair loss treatments, sexual wellness, and ED, and they're one of the most growing men's health clinics in the entire planet right now. 400 plus clinics across the U.S. and Canada and growing. And my favorite is the one out in Chesterfield. Book that appointment for free. They really pride themselves on sticking to that 1-hour visit. Get the test done. See if you feel better after that experience with Game Day Men's Health. They have their own pharmacy. The pricing, very streamlined and simplified. You will love the experience. They treat you very well, guys. GameDayMen'sHealth.com.
Termites cause $5 billion in damage to homes and businesses in the U.S. every year. Call Point Pest Control now at 636-798-0023 and reclaim your space from unwanted pests. That's 636-798-0023. PointPestControl.com.
97.1 FM Talk is proud to support the Guns N' Hoses First Responders Soccer Cup, May 30th at Worldwide Technology Soccer Park. Law enforcement battles firefighters and EMTs on the field, all for a great cause. 971talk.com/events.
When you're approaching retirement, there are a lot of questions to answer. Do you have enough money to fund your income for life? How should you claim Social Security? And what's your plan for health care and long-term care? Hi, I'm Eric Robert, Director of Investments with the ClearPath Wealth Management Group at Stifel and host of On the Money Saturday mornings at 11 on 97.1 FM Talk. Don't leave your retirement to chance. It's crucial to understand and address relevant risks before you retire. Our team can help you get organized, guide you through critical retirement decisions, and create an investment portfolio designed around your needs. To schedule your free retirement plan consultation, go to clearpathinvesting.com. That's clearpathinvesting.com. Or call us at 636-695-2650. That's clearpathinvesting.com or 636-695-2650. Stifel Nicholas and Company Incorporated, member SIPC and NYSE.
Want to make the most of your tax refund? File with TurboTax on Intuit Credit Karma. They help you get your biggest refund, and then we help you do more with it with a personalized plan designed to help you hit your money goals. Start filing today in the Credit Karma app.
You're listening to The Mark Reardon Show on 97.1 FM Talk, St. Louis Conservative.
Well, I think we could probably make a strong case for it not being the best weekend for our St. Louis Cardinals, just when we were kind of hoping that things were gelling, if you will. Frank Cusumano from Channel 5 with us this afternoon. Boy, that Saturday game was something. A lot of offense. Certainly not boring, right?
Yeah, it was a great game. You hate to waste a game where you score 9 runs and hit 4 home runs. And then you hate to waste some good pitching performances over the weekend by Palante and yesterday by McGreevy. It's really painful, Mark, because you lost to 3 games by a total of 4 runs. I mean, you actually played some pretty good baseball, and yet you have nothing to show for it, and you keep thinking, boy, is it starting to crumble? Is this the team we thought they would be? We'll see what happens. And we're going to Pittsburgh now, and this is not your father's Pirates team. They haven't made the playoffs since Barack Obama was in the White House, 2015. But now, because they've been bad for so long, they've had these early picks in the draft, and they got this really talented young pitching. So this is going to be an intriguing 4-game series in Pittsburgh.
I do not want the Pirates, don't misunderstand what I'm going to say. I don't want the Pirates to win this series. But, the poor Pirates fans, I mean, from when we were growing up, Frank, I mean, the Pirates were just such a legendary franchise. It's just so sad what's happened to them when it comes to baseball. So they earned some of this. But the fans also know that, at a certain some point they're going to get dealt to another team as a free agent. I guess they locked up that one kid. But look, to your point, this is not going to be an easy stretch because they don't have any time off. They play the Pirates for 4 games. The Dodgers then come to town, and then the Brewers. So everyone at this point, and the Cardinals are still at least at 500 or above 500. But boy, the next 2 weeks is going to change a lot, I think.
Yeah, hopefully, my goal, I have a lofty goal, is don't go to bed with the team under 500. We'll see if that's still around after this series, and in particular the Dodgers series. I do think it's interesting. They're going to pitch Hunter Dobbins on Thursday.
I heard that.
He's a highly regarded young pitcher, and who knows what's going to happen with the way it's going with Kyle Leahy. Matthew Liberatore was very disappointing. You're going to need at least 6 or 7 starters in this 17-day, 17-game stretch.
So I'm curious about Hunter Dobbins, Frank. I think that if this guy wasn't going through the torn ACL rehab at the beginning of the spring, you're probably looking at a realistic chance that he would have been a part of this starting rotation entering into the season. Let me ask you, do you think that there's a chance that eventually, once the Cardinals go back to a 5-man rotation, that Hunter Dobbins could be replacing one of the starting pitchers in your rotation now?
Oh, yeah. I think the organization believes that long-term he may be a better answer than Kyle Leahy. And I tell you what, I think Kyle Leahy's a good pitcher. Last year he was a great pitcher out of the bullpen. And, the more, if you could move him to the bullpen and all of a sudden you got him with Graceffo, Romero, and O'Brien, then you're in decent shape there. And Stanek was good yesterday. So they just need quality arms, and they don't have them. They're by far have the worst strikeout rate of any pitching staff in baseball. And by far they have the worst swing and miss rate than any pitching staff in baseball. That's alarming.
So I didn't follow it as closely this weekend. I was kind of following the game on Saturday with all the runs being scored. Yesterday didn't see any baseball. But has Jordan Walker slid back into the Jordan Walker that we've kind of known for the last couple of years very quickly, unfortunately?
Well, he went through a bad stretch. There's no doubt about it. Yesterday, though, he walked twice and hit 2 balls hard and had a base hit. So he's still your leader in batting average on the team. Yesterday was promising. The last 6 or 7 games were not. The other big story is Nathan Church. Do you know he has 5 home runs? Do you know Nathan Church is on pace for 30 home runs this season? He and J.J. Weatherholt. Now, if they both hit 20, I'd still be really happy. But if you look at Church's resume, and I've said this before in your program, Mark, it's a really good minor league hitting resume in terms of on-base percentage. Maybe not so much power, but he's been a good offensive player. And I think that when Lars Nootbaar comes back, the guy that could be the odd man out is Victor Scott in center, because Church could move there if he's hitting.
All right, reactions from the NFL draft in Pittsburgh. We had Zion Young went maybe a little later than I thought he would. Kevin Coleman, you predicted that he would get picked up. I think he got picked up in the 5th round, right?
Yeah, he went. I just been texting with him this morning. He got picked up by the Dolphins in the 5th round, and although he's only probably 5'10", 180, that's fine for a slot receiver in the NFL if you have great speed and elusiveness and good hands, which he does. And I also think he's a dynamite punt or kick returner. Ask Arkansas about that. So I think he's got a good chance to make a living. Mark, I was thinking about this today. A lot of times when these guys get drafted, it's so cool because a lot of them, are just like the rest of us in college. We have no money, and all of a sudden you get this big contract and you go out and buy a really cool car. Well, but these guys already made money for the last couple of years, so maybe it's not as much of a thrill period for them as it used to be.
I think there's some truth to that for sure. Anything else you want to mention here before we let you go?
Just the NBA Jason Tatum story continues to be unbelievable. He was not supposed to play basketball at all this season. These are 365-day-a-year, Achilles tears. I mean, Kevin Durant took him a year and a half, and he comes back in less than a year, and he comes back as the best player on the floor for the Celtics, which he was last night. It's an amazing story for this St. Louis kid.
That's awesome. All right, Frank, have a great week. Let's hope for good things from the Cardinals, and we'll talk when they're back home against the Dodgers next weekend. That's always interesting, right?
Yeah, it will be fun. Thanks,
all right,
Mark.
yeah, have a great week. That's Frank Cusumano. Yeah, unfortunately, Ethan, we get our hopes up. Look, anything can happen in the next, whatever this would be, 10 games, right? Got a 10-game stretch with the Pirates, the Dodgers, and the Brewers, unless the Brewers is a 4-game series. That's tough,
I think it's 10.
Right?
Yeah, it is. And, it's a 17-game stretch in total where they are not going to have off any days, and then May is just tough in general. And if you remember last year, the Cardinals had a phenomenal May. They had the best record in baseball in the month of May, and then June, similar thing where they played 20 games straight or whatever it was, and it got very difficult very quickly. So we know
the All-Star break, we knew that it was kind of over at that point.
We know this is a young team. We know that there's going to be highs and lows, but this is a great opportunity to look at, okay, how is this team going to respond when there's some adversity, when they are not 100%, when they are gassed out a little bit, and unfortunately, you had to use a lot of your bullpen on Saturday. The good news is that you hit one of the best starting pitchers in baseball in Brian Wu very well, and then you needed a good start out of Michael McGreevy, and he responded. So those are the kinds of things that you are looking at in stretches like this. It's not going to be as simple as did they win or did they lose.
Look who's so hot right now, the stupid Cubs. Oh, my God, they're on fire. All right, we're coming back.
Traffic from the 97.1 FM Talk Traffic Center.
So a little bit of a slowdown here. If you're heading at 55 southbound just past Broadway, watch for a stall. It's in the right lane, so you might find some slowing there. And then some debris on 70 eastbound just past Route TW. It's in the right lane also, causing a slight backup. And then westbound on 70, way out west, but just keep this in mind if you're headed out that way into the right city area. We've got the left lane taken out with flooding through that area. It got hit pretty hard. I'm Trent Erickson at 456 on 97.1 FM Talk.
It's time for a $98
one.
AC.
Oh, I thought I
was the one.
Oh, you are, but this one's certified, background check, shows up on time, and can install all the ceiling fans.
Heating, cooling, electrical, and plumbing. Trusted pros who do it right.
CherryCounty.com. It's time for a $98 AC tune-up.
Hey, would you like a worry-free retirement? Maybe you're a little nervous right now about how much your money is going to last into retirement. We're going to try to take care of you, and we're going to try to take great care of you tomorrow night at the DoubleTree Hilton off of Swingley Road in Chesterfield, because we have another in a series of 5 seminars with the team from the Retirement Advisor Group, and we still have space available. These are free events. All we have to do is know that you're coming. You just have to give them a call, or if you go to retirementkey.com, there's a page right at the front. You can't miss it. It says register. You can also register right there on that same page for an in-office visit, and if you do that, you'll get a free copy of their latest edition book, Your Key to a Worry-Free Retirement. One of the things that Thomas and the team do, though, is they put you in control of your money. I've had a lot of clients tell me 2 things. They wish they would have met him sooner, and he doesn't tell you what to do. He gives you the greatest advice that you would want, especially in a tough area where inflation is ticking away at your wealth. You have a market that's a little wonky. How do you lock in your gains and not lose money? Well, they have a philosophy. It's safely linking to the market. It's a little different than maybe what you'll hear from other brokerage houses, et cetera. Mark Cox is always a good person to put that into perspective when we meet tomorrow night, and we meet with the team from Thomas and the Retirement Advisor Group. So we'll see you there tomorrow night. Make a reservation. Just go to retirementkey.com. Free event. Doesn't last very long. We'd love to see you tomorrow night in Chesterfield.
For the last 33 years, you've discovered that at Banner Construction, we pride ourselves on quality craftsmanship. We believe the single most important decision homeowners must make when considering an exterior restoration project is who do you hire. At Banner, we provide well-engineered, meaningful, long-term solutions to transform your home into the pride of the neighborhood. Let us help you fall in love with your home all over again. Call or visit bannerconstruction.com and have a Banner Day.
It's not pleasant to hear it, but Missouri is falling behind in its spending of state tax dollars, education, and health care. But there are ways to get Missouri moving forward again and produce a better life for all of us. That's why we at the Show Me Institute put together a 2026 Missouri Blueprint, a roadmap on how the state can move to a brighter future. The blueprint covers policy ideas from taxes to government transparency, from education to healthcare and budget reform. Let's allow students to attend the school of their choice. Let's adopt new proven methods to help the many school kids who can barely read. Let's limit state spending growth for Missouri's long-term financial stability. And let's invest in future needs with more nuclear energy. Why not common sense reforms to make things better for all Missourians? Check out our 2026 Missouri Blueprint, moving Missouri forward at showmeinstitute.org. The Show Me Minute has been brought to you by Show Me Institute and Show Me Opportunity.
Hi, this is Steve Butts from the Crawford Butts Insurance Agency. In 2026, our agency celebrates a momentous occasion as we celebrate 65 years of service to our clients, a tribute to our founder and my dad, Nor Butts. Our staff is ready to assist you with all your insurance needs. So please call me, Steve Butts, at 314-752-2500 or at crawfordbutts.com. For auto, home, and commercial insurance needs, that's crawfordbutts.com.
KFTK FM Florissant from the Kaufman Townsley St. Louis's Injury Lawyers Studio. Call 314-777-7777.
That's 314-777-7777.
Shows Allen had a desire to kill officials within the administration from highest ranking to lowest.
You can see that's a 12-gauge pump action Mossberg shotgun. It's a .38 semi-automatic. He had at least 3 knives.
Allen appeared before a federal magistrate earlier and was formally charged with attempting to assassinate the president.
Fox's Jessica Rosenthal. House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries reacting to the attempted shooting.
Political violence in any form directed at anyone, whether that's the right, the left, or the center, is unacceptable.
Jeffries is calling for the suspect to be prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law. King Charles and Queen Camilla have arrived in Washington. The royals have several events this week to celebrate the 250th anniversary of the United States and the special relationship between the U.S. and U.K.
President Trump spoke a few days ago about this upcoming visit. He was asked whether or not it would repair some of the divisions, and he said, yes, I think it may well, because King Charles is someone I know very well and who is a fantastic man, and you often hear President Trump talking so warmly of the royal family.
Fox's Benjamin Hall. Charles is set to address a joint session of Congress tomorrow. Prosecutors say the suspect in the killing of 2 University of South Florida doctoral students from Bangladesh asked ChatGPT days before the couple disappeared about disposing of a body. America is listening to Fox News.
I move mountains for a living. Literally. That means I don't carry hand lotion, and when it comes to serious heartburn, I don't mess around with anything but Rolaids. Rolaids' dual-active formula has calcium carbonate and magnesium hydroxide that relieves heartburn fast. Yeah, you heard right. 2 actives for that powerful relief. And the best part? The roll fits right here in my pocket, so I can get back to moving mountains.
Rolaid spells powerful relief. Read each label. Use as directed. Keep out of reach of children.
My name is Christine, and I'm a widow. My husband, Ryan, was a healthy 34-year-old, and 3 months later, he was gone. Thankfully, he had life insurance. Ethos made it so easy. You can get a quote in seconds, apply in minutes, and get same-day coverage. 100% online, no medical exam. Life insurance didn't take away the loss, but it did give us the space to just grieve.
Get your free quote at ethos.com/save. Ethos.com/save. Paid spokesperson. Time spent on application may vary. Online health questions required.
Air Comfort Service, heating, cooling, and insulation, weather.
Our tornado watch continues until 9 o'clock tonight, so we're not completely out of the woods yet. So scattered showers and thunderstorms into the middle of the evening hours, clearing skies after midnight and windy, 54. Tomorrow, Tuesday, partly sunny, couple of showers, thunder showers late in the day, mainly a dry day, 72 degrees. Tuesday night, scattered showers and thunderstorms, not severe. This is 97.1 FM Talk. Chief Meteorologist Dave Murray.
This hour of the Mark Reardon Show is sponsored by Gamma Tree Experts. Your trees deserve the best care. Call Gamma Tree Experts. This is the Mark Reardon Show on 97.1 FM Talk.
Well, we've had a few people on the air today with us who were at the event on Saturday night. Brian Kilmeade was at the White House Correspondents' Dinner. He visited with us at 3:30. We invited my friend Scott Jennings to come on, who was there. He was on the CNN set afterwards, but he's meeting with the King and the Queen of England right now, so he had some important things to do. But Jeff Mordock, who is the White House correspondent for the Washington Times, is with us tonight. He's been a guest many times before. And Jeff, I'm glad you're safe first and foremost, because you were pretty close to the action, I understand, on Saturday night, right?
That is correct. So I was the pooler. And what that means is the White House reporters, we take a rotation of who follows the president for the day, because we all of us can't do that.
Right.
So it was my opportunity to do that, and I'm there. And so after the president takes the stage, they moved the pool over to the foyer area. And in the foyer area, we were there to get our food, to get set up with our laptops, to get the code to the Wi-Fi, all of that. And we heard 3 loud boom, 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 bangs coming from the other side of a wall. And then we smelled smoke, and we saw Secret Service agents rushing, Secret Service agents pulling their guns out, people pointing guns, and it's frightening because you see a lot of people running around with guns drawn. You don't know who's a good guy with a gun, who's a bad guy with a gun, and it's incredibly frightening. Both the AP and the Washington Post put out maps, and I know it's very hard to do this on radio, and if you look at the maps where the shooting was, where it took place versus where we were, the only thing that separated us was a wall. There were some doors, but Secret Service was guarding the doors even before the shooting took place. But other than that, we were just on the other side of the wall where he was.
Yeah, I was going to try to see if I could come up with the map that they put out, just because I'm curious about that. It was interesting when I spoke with Brian Kilmeade a couple of weeks ago. He thinks he even maybe smelled the gunpowder before he heard anything. So obviously, you smelled something as well. But then when did you realize, and when did you finally have an opportunity to realize what had happened, that someone tried to breach the room?
As soon as I saw Secret Service where we were, dash and run, pull out their guns. And for example, I have a picture on my phone. A Secret Service agent pulled out her gun and is pointing it down where there was almost a closet, like she was checking the closet to see if there was nobody, make sure there was nobody in there. We saw just guns drawn, people running, Secret Service screaming at us. And one of the things too, when you're part of the pool, it's usually a 10-person pool. You are under Secret Service protection.
Oh, really?
And all of a sudden,
That's interesting.
As a matter of fact, we are part of the motorcade when the president travels, and we were part of the motorcade Tuesday, and there's always at least one designated Secret Service agent in the press van with us.
I had no idea. That's good. I would say that's a good thing for sure, right?
Right. I think so, too, and it's always something I always tell my son when he worries that I travel, don't worry about me. I'm under Secret Service protection. And for a bit of a side, the most interesting thing I've ever heard is the Secret Service agents always tell the bus driver, because we're in a van that's part of the press pool, if somebody gets in front of the van, if somebody wants to stop the van, you keep going. You run them over. We'll take care of you. Do not stop under any circumstances.
Wow.
Which I think is the most interesting thing I've ever heard.
So we've heard some people who were there the other night talk about how they felt the security was rather lax. Let me play. This is Harris Faulkner from Fox.
Point of fact, we had 2 tickets. The guy didn't even want to see them both, and one of them was wet from the rain. They weren't even looking at those tickets, some of them. A dinner ticket or a copy of an invite to many of the pre-dinner parties would have sufficed, but I just gave you the layout. It was pouring. They weren't reading all that stuff.
So John Roberts also added this.
One of the things that I noticed, because I stayed at the hotel with my wife on Saturday night. We ended up actually bailing out, not using the room, but I parked our car, which was an SUV in the self-parking, under the hotel. And then because I had a virtual key, I took my luggage, which was her gown, my tux, and an overnight bag, went into the entrance from the garage, got in the elevator, flashed my virtual key up to our floor, and went right up. So, I just had luggage, but I could have brought anything into that hotel, and it would appear that that's what this gunman did.
Jeff, what would you say about that, about the security at an event like this? You've been at many things along these lines, so are those criticisms warranted?
Well, so as a member of the pool, I did not go through the security line. They sweep us at the White House, and then we just go right in with the president.
Mm-hmm.
So I was not subject to that. However, I had a lot of friends there, and their stories are mixed. I've had people say, nobody asked me for anything. Nobody even wanted to look at my ticket. I just walked right in, where I have another friend, because as John Roberts was saying, it was raining that day. Or I'm sorry, Harris Faulkner was saying it was raining that day. I had a friend who tried to bring an umbrella in, and they refused to let her bring the umbrella even past the security checkpoint. The suspected gunman got farther with a weapon than my friend did with her umbrella. But then I have other people who tell me nobody even asked me for a ticket. I just kept going.
Yeah, that's interesting. That doesn't really instill confidence, though, right? And this is it's different because it's at a hotel, and you have guests that are at the hotel that are not going to the event. Certainly the president said this Saturday night. This is one of the reasons he wants the ballroom and that others want the ballroom. It's hard for me to believe that they're going to open this thing, and he says he wants to do another one in 30 days at that same location. Does that sound realistic to you?
It does not sound realistic to me.
Right.
My personal opinion is they should not. Let's just take the punt and try again next year. I don't see how that's realistic at this point. First of all, they're still reviewing what went wrong. They're still reviewing the security measurements. One of the questions that came up today that the White House told us that they're still looking into is, should J.D. Vance be at these events with Donald Trump? You had 12 of the 18 members of the line of succession in that room today.
Right. That's
Saturday.
stunning when you think about it, right? It really is, because this could have turned a lot worse. Not that we have, empathy for all our members of the media all the time, but here's Martha McCallum saying this.
I think for a moment that night, I think that President Trump is right when he said that there was this sort of nervousness that I think led to a bit of understanding of the pressure that he's under, of what it feels like to get shot at twice and to have another person attempt to do that. And I hope that does sink in a bit with some members of the media, and mostly even to a greater extent on social media, the kind of avenues that steep the sort of intense craziness that leads someone to try to pull something like this off.
Now, Jeff, you've seen this firsthand with the president. He flashes anger sometimes. He says things that certainly some of us are not fans of him saying. Maybe even he regrets it, or Melania at times. But his, tenor, his demeanor in the aftermath of this was quite incredible. I mean, I would use the word presidential because we've often said, why can't he be more presidential? He was complimentary of the media, and it was one of those events, as you know, where everyone was kind of gathering for the same reason. Even people that rip into Trump and even people that Trump rips into, he even said he was going to let it rip that night. They were there to celebrate freedom of the press, and I was shocked at how complimentary, until he did the interview with Norah O'Donnell last night, he was toward the rest of the media members. And maybe Martha's right that, people in that room, that had to scare the hell out of you, Jeff. I mean, I've never been through something like that. And most of those folks in that room have never had gunshots go around them, right? Unless they were at Butler or something like that. So it's horrifying.
It absolutely is. I had a member of the pool, I won't mention who that was, almost a female who went into the corner and was, had her head in her knees because she was so scared.
Right.
That was, I had to go over and ask her if she's okay. It was terrifying. And I don't know if this is going to be the wake-up call, because anybody in that room could have been a victim that night.
Yeah, that's right.
It could have been anybody. It's not just maybe he gets in there and starts firing indiscriminately. You don't know. A waiter could have been a waiter or waitress, a member of the media. Anybody in that room could have been a victim.
So what have you discovered in the aftermath of this when it comes to the manifesto? And was he in court earlier today? Because I don't even like to mention these guys' names, but he was supposed to be in court. I guess something that's a little unique here compared to the other assassination attempts, certainly Butler, is this kid survived. And I don't know if we're going to know more about what he believes in, but he certainly wasn't afraid to share some of that with family and friends when he sent the letter before all this went down.
I would like to, one of the things that we're still looking into is when and where did he become so radicalized?
Yeah, that's a really good question, because this is a smart kid, right? He went to Caltech. I think he has a master's degree.
Yes. And that's something else I also am having a hard time understanding. For a gentleman as smart as this person was, I should not use the word gentleman, I'm just so used to saying, for a person as smart as this person was, this plan was not incredibly well thought out. I mean, his plan was basically to take his guns and just start running and hope for the best. And it's interesting to me, for a guy who has a master's degree in engineering, graduated from Caltech, built robots that are able to play soccer, built an emergency brake on a wheelchair. I mean, those are things I think a lot of us could not do. He was able to think through and do those things. Why was his plan just to take a weapon and run? Like, why was that to me is something?
Yeah, it's bizarre. But
like
you know what that does then, and you know this, and it happened. The first thing that my wife said to me on Saturday night when we were watching this coverage was, they're going to say that it was a hoax, right? And I said, I bet there's stuff on Twitter already, and there probably was, because people think that they manufactured this as a diversion every time something like this happens. Well, it's because of Iran, so they fake this. That there are people that are ordinarily maybe kind of smart that I think believe that, Jeff.
And it is frightening. And the problem is, I don't know how you combat it, and that makes this worse.
Right.
Because I don't know. And because now the onus isn't discussing how did this happen? What can we do to prevent this again? What are our security measures? We're now arguing this happened. This was not a false flag. This was a deranged individual. And now we're wasting our time arguing that. Then how do we ever prevent this from happening again?
Yeah, I think you're right about that. Jeff Mordock, White House correspondent for the Washington Times. Glad you're safe. Glad that this wasn't, worse than it was for everyone in that room, because it really could have been really a disaster. But Jeff, thank you for the time this afternoon.
Thank you, Mark.
All
Very
right.
much appreciate you having me on.
I appreciate it. In some of the aftermath here with the explanations are just unbelievable, with people trying to, and I'm going to play you some of the lowlights from The View here because they're the most embarrassing, but they give me a lot of content, and they already, or always have. But one thing I want to start with here is, because this happened in the aftermath of the Charlie Kirk assassination as well, and it's happening now. I'd like you to meet Corinne Baum, who was, she's not anymore, teacher at what's called the Children's House in Cincinnati. This is a kindergarten teacher, right? And she was disappointed that she woke up on Sunday morning to find out that President Trump was not assassinated.
Man, there's been a few creators on here saying that like Friday or yesterday could have been the day. And then I wake up to that news, but not that news. We're gonna have to pay really close attention to what they're trying to actually distract us from.
So she was fired, and if that was my daughter's teacher, I would want her to be fired. It's amazing how bold some of these people and stupid they are, where they think that they could go on social media and not be discovered, not be exposed by libs of TikTok, et cetera. And then there's this guy in Wisconsin. Now, I will tell you, in the People's Republic of Wisconsin, he's probably being cheered on. His name is Kirk Bangstead, and he's running for the state assembly up there as a Democrat, right? He owns something called the Minocqua Brewing Company, which is a large brew pub in Minocqua, Wisconsin. And he said that he decided to run for his position in the state assembly because he didn't like the way the things were going down in Madison. So what happened was, over the weekend, is that he decided, and I guess there's free beer that's being offered at his restaurant if President Trump is killed and assassinated. So there's someone from Eric Mack from Fox News, because they find out about this. Eric is one of the producers, reaches out, says, I'm Eric Mack from Fox News reaching out. Do you have any statement from the Minocqua Brewing Company Facebook post? Well, we almost got, quote, free beer day, either a brother or sister. This is what the post said. Well, we almost got hashtag free beer day. Either a brother or sister in the resistance needs to work on their marksmanship, or he faked another assassination to get positive news cycle. We'll never know. Regardless, we stand at the ready to pour free beer the day it happens. Thank you. And for any comment you can provide, that's from the producer at Fox, right? So This guy responds. He's not afraid. And look, he's being probably held up as a hero to these people on the left. Believe me, they love this. There's so many people that wishes that Trump would have been assassinated, or any of those people in the cabinet. So Kirk Bangstead, who is the owner of this brewery, says it's wonderful that Fox News, the entity that's most responsible for political violence in this country, which is laughable when you think about it here, considering what's said on CNN and MS Now and all the rest of them. It's laughable, he says, wonderful that you're offering to help promote our upcoming free beer day, in which we promise to hand out free beer all day when he dies. Every time you write a story about us, our beer sales go through the roof. Is it possible that the vast amount of media literate Americans who also love great craft beer just love when hashtag faux news completely misreads the room and clutches its pearls as we hype the celebration of life, and the rest of the globe anticipates with glee? Eric, and he's addressing the Fox producer, because we're generous people, you and your colleagues at Fox are invited to our party. Just remember, no red hats or knee pads allowed. We drink standing up at our tap room because we refuse to kneel to cult figures and mafia bosses. Now, he absolutely has the freedom to say that, and I suppose he feels that when he does say that, he is in good enough shape to really spur on sales, because, look, he's in, I have to really kind of find out. My Wisconsin geography is not as good as it used to be. I lived up there for almost 10 years. Where's Minocqua? Minocqua, Wisconsin. See if we can do that. I don't think I can even spell it very well here. Find that out. I got to widen the map here. I guess the reason I was going to look at it is I want to see how close it was to Madison, which is definitely the communist capital of the United States. But it looks like it's way up north of, it's way up north of Madison and Wausau, Rhinelander, a little bit north of Rhinelander, Wisconsin. So sort of in the middle north part of the state, not an area that I'm very familiar with. But he doesn't care. I mean, he's not backing down. There's no way a guy like that's going to offer an apology. They want Trump dead. They're not afraid to say it. They're going to celebrate it when he is dead. And the way things are going with an assassination attempt seemingly every 6 months or so, they may very well succeed.
Traffic from the 97.1 FM Talk Traffic Center.
Out there with some debris on 44 westbound just past Arsenal. 2 left lanes are taken out with this, so look for it. And some more on 70 eastbound past route TW. That is in the left lane. You're seeing that. And then 55 northbound past Broadway, a right shoulder closed. That's just with a stall. And some flooding way out west. If you're jammed up westbound on 70, and that's getting into the Wright City area, the left lane is closed due to that flooding. I'm Trent Erickson at 520 on 97.1 FM Talk.
All right, I want to guide you into what could be your next home, full-time home, your next vacation home, your next staycation home, and that's Innsbruck, which is really amazing. It's only about an hour from St. Louis. They like to say where every day is the weekend. They have plenty of awesome homes out there for you to either rent or to build or to really get inspired by. And the home types are unique. You know, I remember Innsbruck from back in the 80s. We had some friends that were out there. The A-frame chalets were always popular. They've gone way beyond that at this point, and the property is as beautiful, if not more beautiful, than it ever has before. But some of the communities they have, especially in the last 4 years, they introduced tree houses, and the tree houses they're suspended homes above the ground. They have beautiful bird's eye views of the valley below, and they're beautiful, right? Well, after that, they introduced Sonnenhaus, and that's just a little bit different. It blended the exterior of a tree house. It's not elevated like the treehouse. Part of it is, the deck is, but also the interior cozy elements of a cottage, and they are beautiful. If you go online to Innsbruck-resort.com and you click on the communities aspect of the tabs, you'll see those tree houses, the Sonnenhaus, the chalets, the custom homes. You can take some 3D tours and view the lots, and even some of the properties that are finished that you can purchase as well. Outside of that, what I like to do is just spend some time out there on the golf course, on all the hiking trails, do a staycation. It's not like the Lake of the Ozarks. It's not too far away. You can do everything on site. Rent a golf cart. That's my advice. Check out all of this online at Innsbruck-resort.com today.
Don't miss a baseball showdown at Busch Stadium when Shohei Ohtani and the LA Dodgers roll into the Lou, May 1st through the 3rd. Kick off the weekend with Friday Night Live and a must-have short-sleeve hoodie giveaway. Saturday brings a Mason Wynn bobblehead celebrating his Gold Glove Award. Then Sunday features a sleek blade collar shirt giveaway. Big names, big matchups, and big giveaways all weekend long. Tickets at cardinals.com/promotions.
This is Mason Wynn. Get your tickets at cardinals.com.
The 1-2, and that's grounded up the middle. Diving play, Mason Wynn to his feet. He throws, he got him!
What's up, Cardinals fans? Mason Wynn here. On Saturday, May 2nd, when we face the Dodgers, you can take home the Mason Wynn Gold Glove bobblehead presented by the Shane Company. It's got my chain, my first gold glove, my whole look, just how I rock it. Plus, a few rare all-gold baubles will be randomly mixed in for 500 lucky fans. This is one you won't want to miss. Get your tickets now at cardinals.com/promotion.
The Mark Reardon Show, 97.1 FM Talk, St. Louis conservative.
Got my friend Phil Holloway, former Fox News contributor. He's the host of the Megyn Kelly True Crime Show, is going to join us with his reaction from the White House Correspondents' Dinner shooting here in a few minutes. Let me spend a little time on our city of St. Louis here, because I noticed something in our local paper that I may have to pay attention to, even though it's irrelevant, and most of you have done the right thing, and you don't subscribe. I still spend my $30 a month or whatever the hell it is. They tried to raise it to $40, and I don't get the physical paper, but I get blocked from the paywall when I want to read things like their wonderful editorials, which I agree with approximately 1% of the time. But this one was interesting, and here's what they said over the weekend. The Post-Dispatch editorial board has been talking since late last year with developers, city officials, residents, and others with one big question. What can be done to revive downtown St. Louis? And they say in the days to come, so I'll be very curious about this, and I'll keep an open mind about this, but they say they're going to publish a series of editorials exploring the problems and competing solutions. That's the part that's really going to be interesting, competing solutions. In other words, competing from people who are sane, who actually want the city to be safe, to hire more police officers and get it back on track. The other competing ideology would be communism and socialism, and we hate the police, and that's what's most prevalent on the Board of Aldermen, at least pretty close to being prevalent. So what the Post says is we will bring in varied voices. I have not been asked yet, surprised by that, to talk about ideas for addressing key challenges, including crime, infrastructure, business climate, and the national reputation of the city's downtown, which, by the way, couldn't be worse, right? We are keeping the editorials in the series outside of our paywall. Free to everyone to include as many community members in the conversation as possible. They say in St. Louis, downtown is generally shorthand for the combined Central Core and Downtown West neighborhood bordered by the Mississippi on the east and Jefferson Avenue on the west, Choteau on the south, and just beyond Washington Avenue on the north. Let me simplify it for you, ladies and gentlemen. I am in the center of that particular area and geography, and I see crime all the time. And I don't see cops ever. And I see bump outs being put in to reduce traffic racing, car racing, not to add more police officers. So some of this, the Post-Dispatch could have saved a lot of time on because it's common sense. And you're not going to get people like, I wish I could say Kara Spencer is on board with something, but you're not going to get Megan Green and Rasheen Aldridge and some of the nutbags on the Board of Aldermen to ever do anything to help the growth of the city. They want to play identity politics. I mean, it's going to be hilarious. And if you want to make us more of a laughingstock, there's an easy way to do it. And I'm kind of rooting for it because it's almost like Mem Donnie in New York City. You got to get to a point where let him destroy the city, burn it to the ground, let them reach whatever they have to finally figure it out. I'm sort of that way with downtown St. Louis because Kara's been mayor for a year. If we're being honest, she hasn't done anything. Okay, she helped in the recovery from the tornado. There's been no other successes that I'm aware of. There's no police presence that's increased or any more police officers. And by the way, if there is, she's not telling us that. So I had high hopes, and I don't dislike the mayor, but what the hell has she done, right? Where is she on some of these issues when we have takeovers of streets downtown, et cetera? So here's what they say in the Post-Dispatch. They know it all, right? They say of that area that I just described geographically, that's well over 2 square miles, roughly the geographic size of, say, downtown Detroit. That big footprint is left over from an era when St. Louis was home to almost 3 times as many people as it is now. Yeah, we have, fewer than 300,000 people that live in the city. And in many of these areas that I drive through, certainly in North St. Louis, there's nobody that lives in the city. Sometimes there's no houses there, right? So they say, why this overriding focus on reviving this one neighborhood when there are so many others that are struggling as much or more, including large swaths of North City after the tornado that I just mentioned? But they say because the downtown West Corridor isn't just another of St. Louis's distinct neighborhoods. It is the area that defines our city to the region and to the nation. The one area without which St. Louis wouldn't be St. Louis. Thank you, Post-Dispatch, for writing something that actually makes sense and is true. But they go on to say, even with its current troubles, downtown St. Louis is our city's primary economic driver, the base for more than 2,000 businesses and government employers. Well, that number's been reduced because Channel 4 moved out of downtown. They couldn't take it anymore. Channel 5 moved out of downtown. They couldn't take it anymore. Our company can't wait to move us out of where we are because it's too dangerous. Now, we might still stay downtown at Ballpark Village or something like that, but you're losing people. You have an AT&T building that was bought for, $3.5 million. This guy thinks he's going to turn into this miracle residential, commercial, blah, blah. It ain't going to happen. It is not going to happen because of the people who are stopping it, like the aforementioned Rasheen Aldridge, Megan Green, and maybe Kara Spencer, because I'd like to know what the hell she's doing. And in this editorial, they say, look, this is a quote from the mayor. When I look at other cities that are succeeding, Detroit, for example, they really jumpstart their revitalization efforts by focusing on their downtown. You have a critical mass, and that does start with a downtown. And what the Post says is our downtown is crumbling, is beyond crumbling. So you're mayor for a year. What have you done for downtown? Name one thing that you've done to make downtown better or safer, Mayor Spencer. Maybe that's there somewhere. I don't know. But all I see is burnouts in the middle of intersections. And I see more homeless people and open-air drug markets. And I see people blowing through red lights on a regular basis. I see people excessively speeding. I see crowds of people that get through traffic because we can't even put a police officer at Clark and Tucker. So during a Blues game or a concert, people can get through a little bit more conveniently. Like real cities do stuff like that, right? We got one corner there at 14th and Market. We'll put some cops there, but that's all we need. We don't have any more cops that we can put anywhere else, right? We don't have any grocery stores in downtown St. Louis. Oh, yeah, we have Schnucks. And by the way, when I went to that Schnucks, which is located across from the old post office, oh, the smell. Let me tell you about the glorious smell when I walked in to the lobby of that Schnucks, the only place you can buy groceries in downtown St. Louis for the most part. It smelled like urine. That's what it smelled like. Mainly because I think a homeless person peed inside of that Schnucks, if I had to guess. Probably more than one. It's a disaster what's happening downtown. We keep talking about it, and the Post is going to address these issues, and they're going to ask people to weigh in, of course. And guess what? Nothing is ever going to get fixed. The population is going to dwindle. Downtown is going to become even a bigger shithole, and I'm going to say that word because that's what it's turning into, and it's embarrassing. And we've given our mayor a little bit of a honeymoon here because of the tornado. That was a year ago. How about some action instead of a group of ridiculous editorials that will probably push socialism from our local paper? Just a thought.
Traffic from the 97.1 FM Talk Traffic Center.
All right, watch for some delays with some debris on 44 westbound just past Arsenal. That's in a lane. 270 on the eastbound side. More debris in the right lane. This is at West Florissant. And then things are moving pretty well. 55 northbound past Broadway. We're clearing a stall out of the right shoulder there, but no slowdowns there. And 70 westbound getting jammed into Wright City because of a left lane down due to flooding in the area. This report is sponsored by Lakeside Renovation and Design. For over 25 years, Lakeside Renovation and Design has been St. Louis's trusted source for transforming homes inside and out. From windows and siding to kitchens, bathrooms, and outdoor spaces, they deliver quality craftsmanship backed by lifetime warranties. Visit lakesiderd.com to start your dream project today. I'm Trent Erickson at 532 on 97.1 FM Talk.
Phil Holloway coming up. He is the host of the Megyn Kelly True Crime Show. Lots to say about the shooting over the weekend. Plus, we have an audio cut of the day and more.
For decades, Morgan & Morgan has represented hundreds of thousands of people at their hour of need. Injuries on the job, car crashes, medical malpractice, and nursing home abuse, Social Security claims, dangerous drugs, and dangerous products. We became America's largest injury firm for a reason, and no firm is even close. Then we got to thinking, what if we could prevent these terrible events before they occurred? So we built the AI-powered People Protector. Simply visit peopleprotector.com and type in the product you have questions about before you buy it. Children's toys and accessories, cars, drugs, products, you name it, we got it. With our success, we decided to pay it forward for all of America. Our way of saying thank you for your trust all these years. Morgan & Morgan, protecting America. And if you've already been injured, just visit us at forthepeople.com.
The choice of a lawyer is an important decision and should not be based solely upon advertisements. Past results afford no guarantee of future results. Every case is different and must be judged on its own merits.
License number GL250000615.
Hey, it's good to hear you.
Hey, Dad. Isn't it good to see ya?
Yep, but with smoke alarms, we need to hear them. If one alarm is downstairs, you might not hear it upstairs.
At school, everyone hears the fire alarm.
That's why we install hardwired smoke alarms that all go off together, just like school.
Smoke alarms done the right way.
Green is always Grasser at GrasserHomeservices.com.
It's time for a $98 AC tune-up.
This portion of the show is sponsored by Jerry Kelly Heating, Air Conditioning, Electrical, and Plumbing.
Where common sense rules the mic. 97.1 FM Talk. St. Louis Conservative.
I mentioned my friend Scott Jennings was at the event, and then he went right to the CNN set, and he had some other travel from yesterday. He's going to join us. Oh, yeah, that's right, today. He couldn't come on today because he was with the King and Queen at the event. King Charles is in town with Camilla. So, but Scott's going to join us tomorrow afternoon. He was in the room, has some reflection. I actually thought CNN did a really good job the other night in covering all of this. They swung into gear. Phil Holloway back with us, host of the Megyn Kelly True Crime Show. He's got some thoughts about what occurred over the weekend. Phil, welcome back. How are you?
I'm doing great, buddy. I hope you are.
I'm doing pretty well. So I was at I mentioned this today, I was at a little house concert, and Fred actually texted me to alert me to all this on Saturday night because I wasn't dialed in. But now we have the aftermath. We have some things we can analyze. We have some charges that have been filed. So overall, I mean, what did you think? Let's just start with the way that kid sprinted past those security agents, flying at as fast a rate as you can see. And you can we've all been through security lines. You can kind of see how that would certainly temporarily help you evade officers, right?
Oh, yeah, for sure it would. And let me just start by saying I, too, Mark, was at a concert on Saturday night, and I didn't realize all this until the next morning. I mean, I was sort of oblivious to it. I checked out, which we have to do sometimes.
A lot of people, over the weekends they do that, right? Yeah.
Yeah, I think that we need to do that more. But look, when I saw those videos the next morning like you, I kind of asked myself, I wonder why this hadn't happened sooner, because it's really easy to sort of charge at a security checkpoint. And I'm someone who goes through a security checkpoint almost on a daily basis at courthouses and places like that. And, you see the long lines and people get frustrated. And sometimes people get unruly in the lines. But if they really, really wanted to do some harm, they could simply approach to near the checkpoint, pull out whatever kind of handgun or weapon that they have, and just kind of blast their way through.
Yeah.
And so I think it's something that definitely the Secret Service is going to need to rethink as they move forward with undoubtedly some enhanced procedures in terms of protecting the president.
Yeah, because, look, the president's been very, very, even today, a couple of days later, very complimentary of security. The Secret Service did not have any issues with that. But what we've also heard from people is that, this was at a big hotel. This kid checked in a day before to get the lay of the land. He booked the room, apparently, about a month off. So there was certainly planning here. But it was, I know the president on Saturday night in the aftermath made it very known that this is one of the reasons they want to build the ballroom, because they'll have more security. But it just seems like this particular event was not afforded the same level of presidential security than other events are, considering there were so many people in that room of pretty important roles.
It's like the State of the Union, right? You have the president, you have the vice president there, you have a large portion of the presidential line of succession in the same room. And so you would think that instead of having maybe lesser security, it would be absolutely enhanced. And I'm really surprised that there's not sort of extra protocols that are already in place for these kind of events. When you have, the president, vice president, and the cabinet there, we're definitely going to have to see some improvements. But one thing I've noticed, Mark, I've noticed that there's a lot of Monday morning quarterbacking, and people are saying, particularly in the media, some folks are saying, well, this was all done because he got on a train versus an airplane. And they are calling now for more enhanced security measures on trains. But you know what? You have always been able to travel with a firearm on commercial airliners if it's checked properly in your luggage.
Right.
I've done it, and it's not particularly difficult to do. So he did not do anything differently with respect to his travel plans that he could have done otherwise. I mean, he could have done this on a plane. He could have checked firearms in his luggage just like he was doing on the train. So I think that the real issue is with the Secret Service and with their executive protection protocols, and we need to take a close look at the failures here and make sure those aren't repeated.
So could he maybe psychologically, though, he felt like he'd get busted going through airport security because there were so many items? I don't know, just a theory there, because maybe then he's worried that he gets flagged and questioned and all that happens, and on the train it might have been an easier pathway.
Yeah, I mean, I guess that's one way of looking at it. The guy clearly was indoctrinated in far left, radical sort of groupthink, right? Everything Trump does is bad. Trump is the personification of evil, and everyone who works for him and his administration is the same, and they don't really deserve to breathe air anymore. And so I don't know where we're going to go to solve the problem of political violence in the United States, but it has to, I think, start with tamping down the rhetoric. But we're in a country that has free speech. We're allowed to criticize our leaders, and there is obviously apparently a cost that goes along with that. I don't know what the answers are, but we've got to start with at least tamping down, I think, the rhetoric.
So, any thoughts on the charges? I guess there were only 3 charges at this point, where there might be others that certainly would be added in the future if they know more information. But any thoughts on that? Because obviously, I think they got him with traveling with a weapon, unlawful discharge of a weapon, attempted assassination. But there's certainly other charges that could be leveled here too.
Yeah, and there are, and it's not uncommon in criminal cases, not just this one, but in criminal cases in general, where you have the initial charging documents that are superseded by something more formal. Obviously, there's not been any time for a grand jury indictment, and prosecutors have a lot of leeway with how they structure and frame a criminal case against any defendant, and the same holds true here. I fully expect to see the charges conformed, maybe more particularly to the specific facts. Today, what we saw is just a placeholder. It's going to change. But, it occurs to me, this is in the District of Columbia. And so, are we going to have a problem there with, finding a jury that's willing to convict if the evidence is sufficient? I just posed the question, but I think time will tell. It's certainly something that needs to be thought out.
The one thing that was confusing to me based on the information that came out, and I guess he just could have had it underneath his clothing, but a 12-gauge pump-action shotgun is not exactly a small weapon. And when you're running through that, I didn't see anything protruding from, his body or anything. The other thing he had was a 38 caliber semi-automatic pistol, and then he had knives and they say other dangerous paraphernalia. But I didn't. Did you see a shotgun in any of the videos?
No, I didn't. But I will tell you this, because I own one. A pump action 12 gauge is a formidable firearm. It can do a lot of damage, and so that just you add that, Mark, to the list of questions that law enforcement and those who are basically doing the Monday morning quarterbacking on this are going to have to figure out how that happened. You just can't really easily hide such a weapon, and so there's a lot of questions that still need to be answered.
And you missed this because you said you didn't really pick up on it until Saturday. Unfortunately, like the news junkie in me, once I got that text message about what happened, I let the concert end and I snuck out, and then I couldn't, stop watching the coverage. And Phil, the coverage was surreal because everyone, there were people on set, like my friend Scott Jennings on CNN with the bow ties and the tuxes still on. Even the president's event, it was so, I don't know if we've ever seen anything like that in history, where all those cabinet members were all dressed up in a tux, and he's in the briefing room taking questions and talking about what just happened with his 3rd, if not 4th assassination attempt. It was really, really bizarre. And God, thank goodness, because this thing could have been a bloodbath, right?
Oh my goodness. You have put the nail right on the head, or the head on the nail, I should say. Look, this was one where every one of these situations is different, right? We have historical moments that oftentimes are sort of fleshed out in the White House press briefing room, but this is a situation where everybody was able to get back to the White House or other places and then immediately start going on TV. And we have a president who is obviously not shy of the cameras. He loves to talk to the media, talk about the media, yell at the media sometimes, but he doesn't mind going and answering questions, oftentimes sort of off the cuff. Really a stark contrast to what we've seen in the most previous administration, where we would not have probably seen anything out of President Biden for several days. But anyway, the media was all over it. And everybody that was in that room, to your point, were potential victims. And so they have to be thinking about it, I guess, in multiple ways, because you have to at least supposedly, try to be objective and report on the news. But if you realize that your life was on the line and you yourself were also saved by the Secret Service and the sort of that first line of defense there, you can't help but give credit where it's due, despite the fact that they could have done it better.
Yeah, well, look, I'll give credit to Wolf Blitzer, who got tackled, I think, by the Secret Service because he had gone off to the restroom and he was in, much closer proximity, and they took him down, and then he was on CNN relatively quickly, recounting his experience. But there was a lot of good work done, on Saturday night reporting about this. And the president, it's funny, Phil, because I don't know how much of that you saw, but he handled himself, I think, exceptionally well. But then, of course, Norah O'Donnell had to do the interview with him on 60 Minutes, and he smacked her down a little bit because he didn't like some of the questions, which that happens with Norah O'Donnell. I was a little shocked that he was sitting down with her anyway.
Well, he doesn't, I guess, hold any punches when he feels like the media is being unfair with him, and that was certainly no exception. That was quite the interview with Norah O'Donnell, absolutely.
Phil Holloway, always great to have you on with your perspective. I really, really appreciate it. We'll see where this takes us. As the story is not over yet, that's for sure.
All right, buddy. We'll talk soon.
Thank you. Phil Holloway, host of the Megyn Kelly True Crime Show. On the topic of the media, because, it was kind of surreal, and it had to be something, I've been at a lot of events with fancy people, never been at an event where gunfire has rung out, and I had to dive for cover. Martha McCallum talking about a little bit of this.
I think for a moment that night, I think that President Trump is right when he said that there was this sort of nervousness that I think led to a bit of understanding of the pressure that he's under, of what it feels like to get shot at twice and to have another person attempt to do that. And I hope that does sink in a bit with some members of the media, and mostly even to a greater extent on social media, the kind of avenues that steep the sort of intense craziness that leads someone to try to pull something like this off.
So I did not hear this interview that Trey Inks did. Marco Rubio was there. I mean, that's the other thing that's scary, is that most of the line of succession was in that room the other night. Here's Marco, the Secretary of State, with Trey Inks.
I'm curious what was going through your mind when shots were fired outside of the ballroom.
I didn't hear shots. I just saw a bunch of security people rushing in from the back of the room, front stage. So the first thing you wonder immediately, just knowing kind of what's out there, is there an internal threat? Is there a threat inside of the ballroom itself? Well, and then the second is, what are they dealing with, some mass event that's happening from the outside in? So, but I saw them follow all the security protocols. I was watching the security steps they took around the president. It was pretty apparent at that point that they were trying to remove him from the scene as is appropriate. So, look, I mean, it was sort of an unfortunate situation that happened there, where one individual can disrupt what is, one of the bigger nights in Washington, especially when the president attends. So that's kind of the world we live in right now.
Yeah, unfortunately, and we're really, really lucky that no one else was hurt or killed. Now, the thing that was happening before this dinner is there's a war with Iran, and there were supposed to be talks over the weekend that got called off.
On Saturday, the president canceled the talks in Islamabad, Pakistan, keeping Special Envoys Kushner and Witkoff here in the United States. He said just 10 minutes later, the Iranians made a new offer on paper, and it was better.
If what they mean by opening the straits is, yes, the straits are opened as long as you coordinate with Iran, get our permission, or we'll blow you up, and you pay us, that's not opening the straits. Those are international waterways. They cannot normalize, nor can we tolerate them trying to normalize a system in which the Iranians decide who gets to use an international waterway and how much you have to pay them to use it.
That's the Secretary of State, Marco Rubio, who candidly has been a little quiet here in the last couple of weeks, I think working more back channels behind the scenes. Dave Murray was with us in the 4 o'clock hour. We had a round of storms that were pretty intense, especially to the north and northwest of St. Louis. We have another system that is developing right now, kind of coming up down in the Rolla area, moving its way up 44. There's more storms, another system that's going through Jeff City, the middle of the state, that's kind of heading toward Warren County and maybe St. Charles. So the point that Dave was trying to make, and I'm not a meteorologist, I can't play one on the radio, is that some of this is in a lull right now. We are likely to get more severe weather and perhaps some tornadic activity. We had a lot of tornado warnings and watches. We're still under a watch, but some warnings went off earlier this afternoon. So if you are thinking that all the weather has moved out, it has not. We have more on the way.
Traffic from the 97.1 FM Talk Traffic Center.
Oh, the roads look good. They have all afternoon. I think everybody stayed home. We've got some debris to look for. 270 eastbound at West Florissant off to your right. And then moving road work. This is going to be on your right, too, on 255 westbound, just past Telegraph Road. On 44 westbound, just past Arsenal, we had some debris there. That's been cleared out of the way. And the flooding is gone on 70 westbound, getting in the right city, so things are back to good. I'm Trent Erickson at 549 on 97.1 FM Talk.
Sue's off for a few days. She'll be back on Wednesday afternoon. Let's talk about maybe some new energy-efficient windows from James Hardie Fiber Cement Siding is also something that they can do at Banner Construction. But the windows, you might be coming off a winter where you knew that they were not energy efficient. Maybe even now you're feeling that because we've had to go between the air conditioner and the furnace. Look, premium replacement windows, especially from Pella, the best in the country. They last year celebrated 100 years in business. They're awesome. They look good from the inside and out. At Banner, they have a certified Pella window installer team that will make sure that your windows are installed right the first time. They leave no mess behind. And you have all kinds of options here. All of the windows come with the Pella Care guarantee for your peace of mind. They have awning, double hung, slider, casement, bow, and bay windows, all kinds of assortments of exterior and interior colors, plus a lot of hardware finishes. And then the glass and grid options, too. You get energy efficiency glass options, grid options. You know, you have different price points, of course. But Pella has been a leader in window and door solutions since, I said, 1925, and they stand for quality. The other thing that stands for quality, Banner Construction, right here in St. Louis. Call, let them prove it to you. 314-569-1050, the website, bannerconstruction.com.
Hey, it's Annie. Grab your clubs and head to Tamarack Golf Course on Friday, May 22nd for the St. Clair County Republicans annual golf tournament. Shotgun start, 18 holes, carts, contest, lunch, and great prizes. Learn more at 971talk.com/events.
Hi, this is Steve Butts from the Crawford Butts Insurance Agency. In 2026, our agency celebrates a momentous occasion as we celebrate 65 years of service to our clients, a tribute to our founder and my dad, Nor Butts. Our staff is ready to assist you with all your insurance needs. So please call me, Steve Butts, at 314-752-2500 or at crawfordbutts.com. For auto, home, and commercial insurance needs, that's crawfordbutts.com.
This is attorney Todd Nissenholtz of Kaufman Townsley. If you're the victim of a careless driver due to no fault of your own, the only way to know what your case is worth is by uncovering the full extent of your injuries. At Kaufman Townsley, we work with the top doctors in St. Louis. We'll help you get the expert medical care you need and fight to get you the maximum money you deserve. Kaufman Townsley. Real people, real results. Call 314-777-7777.
Nothing makes a gathering great like Eggland's Best Eggs. They're just so delicious with better nutrition, too. For us, it's eggs any style, as long as they're the best. Eggland's Best. Better taste, better nutrition, better eggs.
Mark Reardon is St. Louis conservative.
Well, I better watch my time here because I have a few things I want to include in this segment.
Playback ready.
Now, the audio cut of the day.
Questions, of course, about the intent of the shooters. Who were the targets? Jeanine Pirro, who is the U.S. attorney for the district in D.C., she was on TV on Saturday night and has been doing some media the last couple of days talking about this suspect.
Make no mistake, this was an attempted assassination of the President of the United States, with the defendant making clear what his intent was. And that intent was to bring down as many of the high-ranking cabinet officials as he could. This is the kind of situation that we cannot tolerate. He says, I am targeting the administration officials. They are my targets, and I'm prioritizing from the top down, the highest ranking from the lowest. And I will not hesitate to get involved in any kind of encounter with anyone who blocks me from the president.
So that's Jeanine Pirro. Now, there's been some effort today, to talk about who is inciting the violence on which side. So you're going to hear Jasmine Crockett here at the beginning, and I'm not sure who put this together, but it was really brilliant.
I challenge somebody to go and find a clip of a Democrat invoking violence.
Let's extinguish him for good.
I will go and take Trump out tonight.
We're going to fight it in the courts, and we're going to fight it in the streets.
When they go low,
we're going to bury them below the Capitol. That's what we're going to do.
We take them to the mud and choke them out.
You know, there needs to be unrest in the streets for as long as there's unrest in our lives.
I just don't even know why there aren't uprisings all over the country, and maybe there will be.
We're walking down a damn different path. We're fighting fire with fire. We're going to punch these sons of in the mouth.
I take you behind the gym and beat the hell out of them.
Now punch back, kick back, dunk over their heads, and win some power.
Fight back, punch back, and make sure that they stay down. And you know what? Kick them when they're down because they deserve it.
I think that you punch. I think you punch. I think you're okay with you okay with punching.
We are at war. And that's why the gloves are off, and I say, bring it on.
We are not only going to punch you back, but we are going to knock you out.
Like we're in a war right now.
So this goes on, and I play another 60 seconds of that. But let me highlight this and just put an exclamation point with Corinne Baum, who was until today a teacher in Cincinnati at something called the Children's House. She was a kindergarten teacher, but then she posted this yesterday, disappointed that Trump wasn't taken out.
And there's been a few creators on here saying that like Friday or yesterday could have been the day, and then I wake up to that news. But not that news. We're going to have to pay really close attention to what they're trying to actually distract us.
One of the things that the influencers, whatever you want to call them, on TikTok and Instagram, and I guess on the X formerly Twitter, they don't realize that this stuff is going to populate. People are going to pick it up, and I guess maybe it was worth it for her, but she has lost her job as of today.
Traffic from the 97.1 FM Talk Traffic Center.
So things are much better now. We've got 44 on your eastbound side, a little bit slow going past Arsenal. We've got some debris. They're just clearing that out of the way. And then 255 westbound. Watch for moving roadwork just past Telegraph on your right shoulder. This report is sponsored by Barron Mirror Glass and Door. Barron Mirror Glass and Door has the largest, most beautiful showroom in all of St. Louis, full of the latest, most custom designs located in the Chesterfield Valley. There you'll see why they say creativity unlimited, quality unsurpassed. I'm Trent Erickson at 555 on 97.1 FM Talk.
Hey, it's Annie, and I'm here with my friend Stewie from Stewart's American Mortgage. Stewie, if there's one thing I know, it's that people are looking for cash right now. And the mortgage being the biggest bill that most people have, is it the right time to refinance or even just restructure their current mortgage?
You know what, Annie? My wife came over to me yesterday and said, you know what, honey? I love you, and your love gives me thrills, but unfortunately, it don't pay my bills. So here's what we're going to do. Do the bagel loan. If you financed your house over the last 3 years, rates are lower today than they've been over that period of time. Call me. We can refinance, save you hundreds, if not thousands of dollars a month. Now, many people out there think they have a low rate, but maybe you're paying the PMI or maybe you have an FHA loan. You have to look at the total picture, and that's the mistake people make. They say, hey, I'm in a great position. I can't do better. Wrong. 9 out of 10 people that call us with the same conversation, hey, I'm just calling you just to see. We end up refinancing them and saving them lots of money.
Call Stewie at Stewart's American Mortgage, and remember the bagel loan, no closing costs. 314-324-4440. Google the bagel loan, NMLS number 226715.
It's Mark Cox. If you enjoy your backyard like I do, you need to reach out to my friends at Chesterfield Fence and Deck. They can make it better. And make it better in time for this summer. If you reach out to them right now, you mention my name when you call, they're going to give you 20% off the bottom line of your next outdoor project with Chesterfield Fence and Deck. Listen, when you've been around since 1968 and you've been under the same ownership, you take a lot of pride in what you do, and it's a sign you have the very best when their installation crews show up at your house. Here's the thing about it. They do free in-home estimates, no obligation. They'll come out and design a project for you if that's what you're looking for. And of course, they carry the beautiful Vecadec vinyl decking for the decks that are no maintenance. How about that? You don't have to worry about it. The colors are beautiful, plus custom sunrooms and screen rooms and pergolas. Reach out today to my friends at Chesterfield Fence